Keep it secret. Keep it safe. Keep it sacred. Well met, friends, and welcome back to the Sacred Icon Show, a video game podcast for video game enthusiasts. We have got the 100% all-natural Juicy Juice in this one. Xbox gets caught with its pants down, taking a massive leak, and Brian, allegedly, has finished Starfield. Allegedly. What are our thoughts on some of the tattoos revealed on Phil Spencer's butt cheeks? Because when he leaks, the pants come all the way down, okay? And now that the crop dust has settled on Brian's space adventure to infinity and beyond, where does he sit with Bethesda's first new IP in over 25 years? We're going to have some fun stuff to talk about in this one. Brian, how you doing? Do you, when you go to the bathroom, Brian, and you're all done, do you wipe sitting down, do you wipe standing up?
Wow, this is how we're starting the podcast.
This is how we're starting. Spicy.
Here's the great thing. I'm going to answer this, and half of the people listening will be like, of course what Brian said's right. And the other half will be like, you do that? You're insane. I'm a stander, bro, all the way. Got to have that full flex motion to hit at every angle. You know what I'm saying?
You guys want to talk about the ties that bind for people in life, whether it's friendships, relationships, you name it? This was one of the ties that binded Brian and I together, because we didn't really know this until I think one night we were like having this conversation at work with a bunch of coworkers, and then it got revealed. And I think I'm pretty sure that was that time. But Brian was like, "You do too?" And I was like, "Yeah, I stand." He was like, "I stand too," and everyone else was like, "You guys stand?"
I know, and it's
we were
like
united.
I don't want half my arm down the toilet and dirty and can't reach, and just don't make no sense.
You don't want that porcelain snake coming up there and trying to. But
you got me thinking of Phil crop dusted now, and like I'm thinking of if Phil crop dusted someone, I don't think it would necessarily stink or be loud. I think it would literally move your body an inch over. I think the force between those manly cheeks would probably push you away.
I think it smells like nuclear game fuel.
Like he has like a private manufactured stash of like current day game fuel that he just drinks.
Yep.
Okay, you heard it here first, guys. What a way to start the episode, guys. We did a Starfield review in progress. This is the final review for Starfield from me specifically, because Josh is playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now, so he hasn't finished it or played it enough to do a review. But I'm gonna go right off the top with some kind of TLDRs. Too long didn't read before I go into it all, because I definitely have a lot of criticisms. But I noticed, when you have a lot of criticisms, people tend to kind of like take that away as like, oh, he didn't like it or something like that. This is how I want to start this episode. I think Starfield is a freaking awesome game, an exceptional game. I love Starfield. I considered it could be my game of the year for a moment. I think about this game all the time. What an awesome game from Bethesda.
There's a butt coming, I can tell.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, of course there is. What an awesome game from Bethesda. What an awesome game for Xbox to have as an exclusive IP. I'm stoked about Starfield. I love this game. I will give it a 8 out of 10 as my final score for this game. Going into, I'd like to say I'm just going to do the cons and the pros and the cons. But
Can I set you up a little?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Brian told me the other day, he said, I put in about 61 hours, and I'm feeling pretty done with it. I feel like I've done all I want to do. Went in the Discord, put that in there, and people were like, what? Some of our friends were aghast at that, and they thought that was crazy. Are you kidding?
The game is friends, but it was only one. There's only one friend.
Oh, really? I thought it was. I was going to say, I know it's Wesley, but I thought it was Wesley Indiente. But
wow,
I could be wrong.
Calling him out like that.
But well, I love Wesley Indiente.
No, he knows.
But they, to my recollection, my brain, my mind grapes. I'm pretty sure that when you went in there and said that, they were like, "Well, the game's just starting for me," or "I'm just really digging sinking my teeth into it finally." Yeah. But for you, you're like, "Well, I've done everything I want to do." You've gone on there like one or two other times, to my understanding. And you've obviously not seen everything there is to see in that game, but you feel like you've maximized your fun factor out of it. You've
Absolutely.
gotten all you want out of it. So what have you done? Why do you feel like you've played enough?
Okay, so I'm at 70 hours now. So it's a completely different story. No, 70 hours of gameplay, level 40. I've done all the major faction quest lines. There's Freestar Rangers, UC Vanguard, Crimson Fleet, the main quest, Ryujin Industries. I've done all of that. I've done the companion quests. I've done plenty of side, cool quests that have popped up randomly. I messed with the shipbuilder for a while. The one thing I can say I didn't do at all is I did not mess with the base building at all because I just have literally negative interest in that. So I guess I can't comment on that. I did it in Fallout. I mean, I'm sure it's pretty similar, but I didn't do that at all. Traveled to a lot of random planets, explored a lot of random planets to see what I could find. You know, I mean, 70 hours. I spent quite a bit of time exploring this universe, I guess you could say. And yeah, I mean, I love the game. I think it's either Bethesda's strongest writing or at least the strongest writing they've had since Skyrim Oblivion type.
How
times.
so?
Like, I mean, well, if you go back to like Fallout 4, you had limited options in the dialogue. It was all voiced. It was like 4 options. None of the quests are, and to be fair, I didn't play near as much of Fallout 4 as even, in a sense, even Starfield. I don't think I completed all the factions in Fallout 4 because I didn't really like Fallout 4. But
did you do Nuka World and all that, or no?
No, I bought that DLC. I never played it.
Was it Far Harbor? Was that the other one?
Yeah, Far Harbor's the other one.
Far Harbor was good. Yeah.
I've heard Far Harbor's actually really exceptional. But
you bring Nick Valentine, especially. Yeah.
I'll remember that if I play that. But there's just the level of writing in Starfield harkens back to like Oblivion time, where like it's really interesting. The characters are quirky. The characters are fun. The story's interesting. There's twists and turns, and you're a silent protagonist. You have a lot more options in dialogue. You know, me and Josh like to go down and pick all the things you don't have to say at the bottom to get the most out of the character before you progress on. Like all that stuff's back. The persuasion system's there in a really fun way. I loved all the major quest lines and thought they were really good, up there with Bethesda's best, except for Freestar Rangers, which I've mentioned before in different places. I felt like Freestar Rangers was very simplistic, very boring.
The way you described it to me on the phone was that it sounded like I forget the guy's name. Preston Garvey was it in Fallout 4, but it was like another settlement's under attack almost.
Like they had a Preston Garvey quest left over and they used it for Freestar Rangers. But I mean, Ryujin Industries, UC Vanguard, Crimson Fleet, and then the crowning jewel, the main story, which is so crazy for Bethesda because usually their main story is not mentioned that often. But for me, that was the best quest line of the game, was the main story, which is so exceptional. I love the characters, the companions. You have like Barrett, Vasco, Sarah Morgan, and Andreja are your like main companions that have like quest lines and stuff. Mm-hmm. But you also have other characters from the main story like Mateo and Walter, and you have Sam Coe and all these other characters. And a really good selection of characters, really good stories, really good quest lines. The excitement of flying from planet to planet and landing and discovering something new and getting back in your ship and flying back out, all of it was such a blast. And I've mentioned this other places before too, but like one of the huge negatives of the game is it starts off so slow and they throw so many menus at you and there's so much loading and there's so many systems, and it doesn't explain much of it, and there's not many tutorials, and it's not like a regular Bethesda game where you can just start the game and go walking out into the distance and discover a bunch of stuff. You got to get in your ship, you got to fly around, you got to land on planets, you got to, you got to take some missions if you want to have a good time. I feel like if you don't take missions at all, it's going to be kind of lackluster, but once the game really sat in for what it was, once I'd played 10, 15 hours, and I started getting to that gaminess of like landing on a planet, marking my journey out, flying across the galaxy, getting in a dogfight, hailing a ship, boarding a ship, going to a different planet, landing there, like taking new quests in different cities and settlements. It got really fun. Like it was hard to put it down. It was like, oh, I just can't wait to get back out there and go and go and go and go. So it offers this different type of exciting fun than I think prior Bethesda games had, where like prior Bethesda games, you're just walking around the world wherever you want to go, discovering new stuff, having a good time. This is so much, you're in menus, you're loading, you're back and forth from space and planet. And so it's not like, it takes longer to get into, and I don't think it's as smooth, and I don't think it's as good as your Skyrims and your Fallouts in the past, but I do think it offers something different that's special that I really got into after a while. Another negative is the ships, right? The flying, the exploration. I think many of us, this is something we've talked about on our review in progress, we talked about in the Discord. I think many of us pictured something maybe closer to like a Star Citizen or a No Man's Sky, where you're going to be in your ship and you're going to be flying from planet to planet. And that's not really the case in this game. In this game, you have your planet is always in the orbit. Or, I'm sorry, your ship is always in the orbit of a planet. And you can dogfight in that orbit. You can hail ships in that orbit. But if you want to land on the planet or travel to another planet, it's cutscenes and loading. Cutscenes and loading. So it's like, oftentimes it seems like a glorified menu because your ship's just kind of idling outside of an... Like, it's not technically idling, like it's moving, but they made it so slow that, I mean, I don't know if you saw the viral video that Alana Pierce shared that she traveled to Pluto and it took 7 hours. That was her going from the orbit of Pluto to Pluto itself, just flying straight forward, because the game never intends for you to actually be able to fly from planet to planet. It's loading screens, it's menus. So, like, when this game starts off, I feel like it's a bitter pill to swallow. And I know there's a lot of Bethesda fans listening that are probably like, nah, it's just Bethesda, I just loved it right away. But like, if I'm trying to be objective, you start this game out, there's no big step out moment. There's no running in one direction to discover something. There's a bunch of menus, a bunch of loading. Your spaceship is not exploration in the way you would think it would be, which I ultimately think was probably a good decision, because I talked about this another place where it was like, you're flying, if you were just going to fly from planet to planet and there's galaxies that are light years away, how would they have done that in gameplay? Like, if flying from Earth to Pluto is going to take a couple minutes, how long would flying from Earth to across the galaxy take? Like, would it be fun to have someone spend 2 hours flying through space to get to their quest marker? Maybe not. So I get why they did this, where they made it like this fast travel through maps and stuff like that, but it's just crazy for like a studio that makes games where people are like, I'm never going to use fast travel, I'm going to play this like it's real. You can't do that in Starfield, because fast traveling is the name of the game. So you have a slow startup, you have clunky menus, you have tons of loading times, exploration that's not what you thought it would be, and then there's another nail in the coffin. You start landing on random planets and you're like, I'm just going to explore these, and you start to realize that the planets are mostly, and I mean, Todd Howard said it before the game came out, they're auto-generated. So more often than not, the planets you land on, they might be a different biome, they might have different creatures, but it's often very flat, ongoing land with nothing to see or nothing to do. And the things that they do scatter there are like a little outpost that's got some pirates, or a ship lands with some enemies that get off and you fight them. But once you do a planet...
You talking about Mass Effect 1?
It does kind of sound like... They are very much
Joke's
like...
on you, Spider-Man!
They're like Uncharted. They are like Uncharted worlds. It's like...
I'm sorry, I'm an ass.
Just the other day, I landed on a planet. I landed on a planet and there was a little base with pirates. Fought them, okay? Then a ship lands and an enemy gets out and I fight it. Then I go to the next planet. The same thing happens again. It's a barren planet. There's pirates that you can fight. And it just feels very repeated. It feels very procedural. And while the plus for this game is Bethesda's quest lines and writing and like spontaneous quests are so good that you want to praise them for how awesome of a job they did, how great it is to play this game. But that's only if you're really sticking to the content that they have crafted themselves. There is just endless planets of procedural generation with hardly anything exciting to find out. So to kind of move on from like the initial cons, like when you see so many people talking about how the opening of this game is hard to get into, some people just don't feel that way or don't understand, but like I feel like it's very understandable. When you start off and you have no step out moment, you have loading screens, clunky menus, and you have poor space exploration, you have poor procedurally generated planet exploration. And it's just a lot to I mean, that's a lot of content, and it's systems that aren't explained. Like, that's so much content and so much to take in like, let's say your first playthrough, your first session of playing is 6 hours. 6 hours is not a small amount of time to sit and play a game once. In 6 hours, you're still not going to feel like you have a grasp of everything and how they all work together and what this game is trying to be. So very slow and clunky start, where that's not something that other Bethesda games have had. So there's that, right? So I get past the first 20-25 hours. We're talking, this is where our review in progress came in for Starfield, is I was kind of at this 20-25 hour point. When we get done with the review in progress, and I'm kind of at that point where I'm really understanding the game, and I'm starting to get into quest lines, and then quest lines are like, oh, you need a better ship. And I'm like, oh shit, well, how do I get the parts for my ship? Oh, this other quest line will allow me to buy a better grab drive. So then I go over and I start this other quest line, and I get enraptured in that quest line. I'm trying to get my grab drive. And I get my grab drive, and then I'm midway through multiple quests. My companions are like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. And then they got a quest for me. And then I'm discovering I'm in the middle of space, and then I get hailed by a grandma who's like, hi, sweetie, you want to come visit my ship? And then you go there, and grandma's got cookies and food.
No way, she's actually got cookies.
Yeah, she's got So it's you hail, and you see that grandma's got a nice ship that you could totally pop her in the head.
I'm gonna call that ship 80 for Brady.
But yeah, it's the 80 for Brady ship.
Yeah.
You just get into this vibe 20 some hours in where you're just moving from planet to planet. The quest lines are stellar. The characters are stellar. They're popping up right and left. People are hailing you. You're getting into dogfights, and the game is just a blast. And then you realize how many more quests you still have left, and you realize how many planets there are to go to, and all this stuff. And you're just overwhelmed with excitement at how awesome this game is, and it starts to feel like something really special.
Game's awesome, dude.
Game is awesome, dude. And the combat, is really exceptional for a Bethesda game. It's much better than Fallout 4, which is already a step up. Third person actually feels fun to fight in. It kind of reminds me of Rockstar a little bit when you go into third person and you're shooting. And then I start to get I'm starting to customize my character, get cool gear for him, get guns I really like, and I'm starting to get stocked up on ammo, and everything's just kind of settling, and I'm having a blast. And basically from the 25 to the 50-hour point, I am at work thinking about Starfield, thinking about what I'm going to do. I remember I would get in bed to go to bed at night before work, and I would get on my phone and I'd start looking up stuff I can do, and I'm like, no. And I'd get out of the bed in my boxers, run back down to the Xbox, turn it on, start playing Starfield. Erica's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to do one more thing in Starfield before I go to bed. And it's and then I'd get up early before work to do stuff. And it's just awesome because this is the first time I felt on one hand, this is the first time I felt as excited as Skyrim, where I felt it was on a Skyrim level of excitement for a Bethesda game.
Right.
But I could even go back to Fallout 3, and I say Fallout 3 because that came out after Oblivion. I felt like Oblivion and Fallout 3 had this very special vibe, this very special taste of Bethesda design and Bethesda quest mechanics and all that stuff. And Starfield takes me back to the OG Bethesda stuff, and it felt great. It's so exciting. But then this is
taking me down to Cream City with that one, Brian. I love an Oblivion callback.
Oh, it very much feels especially with the camera zoom in on their faces, and their persuasion system is basically very similar to the persuasion system of Oblivion. But then I get to the 50-some hour mark, and this is where I kind of have a little bit of negatives again. And this one's more personal. This is less all that stuff I said about loading and menus. I feel like that's very that's very objective. This one's a little more personal, but I also feel like I make really good points. But once I'm 50 some hours in, I'm starting to realize damn it, they just made the exact same Bethesda game I've played 5 times over again. That's the excitement of being in a new universe and playing a new Bethesda game has started to wear off a little bit 50 some hours in, and I'm like, man, they really did the same shit 5 times in a row. It is very much Bethesda jank, and you get your 4 or 5 main quest lines. There's one quest line in Starfield that kind of seems like they took Dark Brotherhood as a inspiration, did their own kind of Dark Brotherhood version. You get I felt like the UC Vanguard was pretty memorable. It was a really good quest, but
Colin really liked that one.
Yeah, it definitely borrowed a lot of tropes from sci-fi movies, but which is cool though. That's why it's so good. And the main story's awesome, but it also kind of ties into a lot of contemporary trends. But none of that's really a fair judgment. I just thought the quest lines were great in this game, but it just felt so much like Bethesda is caught in their own ways and their own creation engine, and it just feels like they're going to keep making the same game forever. And I think when you couple all the actual problems it has with the loading in the menus and all that stuff, and the procedural generated planets, and then you factor in that this game feels old. This doesn't feel like a next-gen game. This feels like a game that could have, and I know it couldn't have because of, obviously it's running at 30 frames on the Series X, Series X. It feels like it could have came out on the Xbox One. It feels like it was designed 10 plus years ago, because it doesn't feel like Bethesda's design has moved it all past Oblivion. I could almost say Morrowind, but I feel like Oblivion was a big step up in a way. But I feel like, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Skyrim, Starfield, they've all been iterative of what was done in Oblivion. Like, we're still playing Oblivion / Morrowind all these years later, and with the game not only feeling old, but feeling familiar, and then having these issues, I'm just like, where does Bethesda go from here? Because I think what we've seen with these reviews and the discourse is their games just aren't as impressive as they used to be. It used to be like this huge... Now, I would say leading up to Starfield, it was this huge moment. But after it comes out, I think a lot of people are going, I just played Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, it was kind of better. Or they're going, I've played games over the years that I thought were... Cyberpunk did this better. Witcher did that better. And people just... I mean, they've seen it before. And I just feel like this isn't... this. I could see many people saying this is their game of the year. I almost said that myself. But this isn't going to win game of the year because it's just, while it's such an exceptional game, and I really do feel that it deserves that because it's obvious they spent a lot of time and effort crafting this game, and it's so much fun, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I'm going to replay it for years. It's another Bethesda game, and it's one that's not done as well as their prior games, and that's the truth. Like, I feel like it's... Like, I like it better than Fallout 4. I think it's a better game. But, like, even Fallout 4 doesn't suffer from that, like, no step-out moment, takes forever to get going, constantly in your loading, constantly in menus. Like, Fallout 4 doesn't even suffer for that. It's like, in some ways, like, their prior games were just better. And it feels old and archaic in a lot of ways. And it's just, it doesn't feel like it pushes the industry forward in any way. It doesn't feel like it's innovative. I can't think of anything this game does that's innovative, like that we haven't done before.
I've seen you have this conversation in a couple different places now, and I'm not trying to put you in the penalty box when I ask you what I'm about to ask you, but does a game need to innovate to be very good, to be game of the year?
No. I would say it doesn't need it to be good, right? Because, like, I think this game, like I said, I think this game's exceptional. Like, that's a word. Exceptional is I think it's a pretty high quality way to describe a game. Like, this game's exceptional, and I am going to enjoy Starfield more than a Baldur's Gate 3. I'm going to enjoy Starfield more than... I tell you this, I enjoyed Starfield more than Witcher 3, and I think Witcher 3 is a considerably better game, because the thing is, Bethesda games are games that resonate with me more. And that's the thing, too, like, having said all of this, what did I want out of Starfield? I was like, please give me a Bethesda game in space. Like, that's what I wanted. I'm like, don't do anything different. Like, do what you usually do. Just do it again, but in space. And that's what they did, and that's what I wanted. And, like, I love this game, and this game's going to resonate with me more than it is other people. But Bethesda was seen as a top dog who was innovating, who was pushing the industry forward. Skyrim was, like, ahead of the game, man. Like, everybody was catching up to Skyrim. Like, Witcher 3, like, those devs were looking at Skyrim when they were making their game,
It's crazy to think Witcher 3 came 4 years after Skyrim.
4 years after Skyrim,
That's
yeah.
Insane. Gives you something to think about, doesn't it, Brian?
Gives you something to think about. Skyrim and Witcher 3, 4 years apart, yeah. But, no, I think it's good that you said that, though, Josh, because, like, what is the question here? It's a question, does it need to innovate? No. Can it be a good game without innovating? Absolutely. This game is phenomenal, and it doesn't innovate at all. But is that what Bethesda wants to be? And then I also say, what will Elder Scrolls 6 look like if it's this again, right? Like, I already think it'll do better for two reasons. Like, it's got the Elder Scrolls name, and then you're not going to be, I would assume, you're not going to be in loading screens and menus all the time in Elder Scrolls 6, because it's going to be, you're not going to be traveling the stars, but so I think Elder Scrolls 6 will do just fine. I know our hype's going to be through the roof for it. I'm going to buy it day one. I'm going to love it. It's probably going to be in my favorite games of all time as well.
I don't think there is another game that could come close to the anticipation people will have for that. Maybe, GTA 6, but I don't think there's anything that's going to be able to compete with the next Elder Scrolls after the legacy that Skyrim has.
Yeah, and it'll be like a 15-year-old game at that point.
Expect from Elder Scrolls as a series. I do think it's probably going to fall under a ton of scrutiny for that reason, though, because Skyrim is sat in this, heavenly state on a pedestal for so many people, and we're going to be in a different setting. It's not going to be Nordic-ish anymore, and it's going to be a lot of adjustment for people. Yeah. But can't wait for that one. But you make a good point, though, I think. I mean, what happens if this is sort of a precedent? Like, if this is sort of like a red flag we're not seeing at the time, like in the future that we look back on, and like Redfield was like a moment in time where it's like, or what did I say?
Redfield again.
Redfield? Fuck me in the ass
yeah.
with a football, bro. Damn, yeah. Starfield. What if we look back in terms of Bethesda games and we're like, oh man, that was the point where they should have really turned a corner and maybe innovated a little bit more, changed a little bit of the DNA of their the way they make their games, but they didn't. And now we're here with the next Elder Scrolls and nothing's really changed, just the aesthetic, locale, and lore a little bit. That might not be enough for people. If that is the case, if that ends up being true, I don't know. I could see that being a problem. At the same time, like me right now, sitting here not putting too much thought into it, I'm like, I just want it to be what Skyrim and Oblivion have been, what the Elder Scroll games have been, tidy up some of the miscellaneous stuff, if I can get it out of my mouth. But I don't really need much innovation there. Yet, I'm open to that stuff, and I really want it. But at the same time, yeah, it does make you wonder when you're looking at Starfield. As someone who hasn't played it, and I'm hearing you say it in different places that, like, this doesn't really innovate. I've seen you say that a lot, and I'm thinking, like, does it need to? But then also, like, yeah, we're this many games in, and this is the first new IP they've done in over 25 years, and now you're adding their own burger, fries, and shakes of Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and now Starfield, and that's not really done anything to kind of differentiate itself other than aesthetic,
Well, I feel like Starfield
creates an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I just want a traditional ass Bethesda game, that's in space like that. So that's why I'm so happy with this game. That's why I love this game so much. I will say, like, it's that Bethesda game you expect in space with more problems than ever. Like, because I really do think the loading screens and all that stuff I've said, the janky.
That makes sense.
I do think that actually is that's a wanker. A wanker. I was just saying that's an anchor that holds down the game regardless of innovation. That's a real wanker, they Mike.
You know what I'm picturing right now? I'm picturing like fucking PS1 Hagrid.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he looks like a wanker.
Real wanker, Harry.
But I feel Starfield falling into this. We gotta let him have it, guys.
Go ahead, bro.
Okay.
The face you made was like, you're like, I'm not like this. I'm not normally like this.
I was like, I don't usually say wanker. How do you accidentally say wanker? Whenever you laugh on a recording, Josh, and Erica hears it, she starts laughing hysterically too. Just at your laugh.
It's
but I feel like
your face that sells it. Continue, buddy. I'm sorry.
I feel like Starfield's going to fall into the same place as we see like Halo or Gears falling into, where good games, but we've seen it all before, right? Like I feel like now I know that like Halo, it launched not content complete and stuff like that, but like look at like Bungie, they were like, okay, we're done with Halo, and they moved on to Destiny. Now many people in this listening to this podcast, including myself, would go, Halo's way better than Destiny. But Destiny, it kind of blew up. Like, right, Destiny's more popular than Halo is in a sense, like
yeah.
Bungie moved on.
On the flip side, I think Beyonce's song Halo itself is more popular than Destiny's Child.
Wow, that's like Inception right there.
Yeah,
okay.
Isn't it?
I think you're right, though.
Gives you something to think about, doesn't it?
Gives
Beyonce.
you something to think about. Destiny's Child. They should just call the sequel to Destiny's Child. That'd be cool.
There you go.
I'd love that. But no, like I feel like Bungie was like, okay, we've done our Halo thing. Let's move on with Destiny, right? And I feel like you see Halo just continue to be more Halo, and I think you see Gears of War just continue to be more Gears of War. And I mean that's on the that's not just Microsoft either. Like I think even Dark Souls, like you had Dark Souls 1, and then you had Dark Souls 2, and then you had Dark Souls 3, which were all loved games that sold well, but like it was like Elden Ring that was like took it into another level, right? Like that, it was innovative. It was Elden Ring was something big. It was something new. You had Sekiro where it was like, here's something different. But I feel like Bethesda's gotten very comfortable with what they've done, and it's been decades of what they've done. And I think people are just going, I'm not that impressed anymore. I've played better games.
You're making me come around more to what you're thinking. Not that I was necessarily opposing your opinion before, but I mean you put it in a good light, because when you think about it in terms of like Halo and Gears, it's like, well, we got so many games in that franchise, and then the newest two ones that we've had took it open, like more open world, open zone, however you want to look at it, between Gears and Halo, right? Like that was the kind of like big step they kind of took for theirs. But otherwise, leading up to that point, Halo Infinite is Halo 6. Gears 5 is the one that did that. So it took that many games, with some spin-offs there interweaved in between to get to that point when you think about it like that, it's like, yeah, if you know, because I don't know, I look at it like too, like I'm someone who, when I'm playing the Bungie era games and I'm working my way through chronologically, I'm thinking like, man, I could take 20 of these, you know, just be the exact same. I could take 20 of these. But then by the time you're getting to 4 and 5, and I mean, at least for me, I'm kind of like, oh man, I need something to change up a little bit. And then you get to Infinite, and for me, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is kind of what I always wanted. Gears 5, I'm like, okay, I like some of the stuff and I don't like it as much, but that's all my own take. But when you use that as a comparative picture to paint for what Bethesda's doing and the kind of stalemate they are in terms of their innovation or lack thereof, yeah, that's an interesting concept, because that could be a problem. That could be a problem. Like I'm not even talking about Starfield itself and the quality of the game. I'm just, just where they're at in terms of innovating, just doing new stuff. I mean, even then, that presents an interesting question. Like, what could they have done to really innovate in this game? And maybe some people would say, like, oh, do the No Man's Sky stuff we thought we were going to get, but I don't know if that necessarily.
Or maybe just like, I mean, like their animations of faces look like 360 gen still.
Well, did they or did they not confirm that isn't the next Elder Scrolls going to use the same?
I don't think Bethesda is literally able to make these games without continuing to use the creation engine. I think they have to.
I was going to say, I thought.
And the thing is, I don't want them I wouldn't want them to say we're switching to Unreal Engine, then you get the next Elder Scrolls and you can't pick up anything and people don't go flying across the map. Like you got to have that Bethesda charm and like I don't want them to change in that sense, but they got to find some way, because like I'm spending a lot of this game talking to the back of characters' heads again, or like a character like I'll go, hey, will you give me all your money? And they're like, there's no way I'll ever give you all my money. And then I hit persuade, and I'm like, just think about it. And they're like, you know what? You're right. Here you go. And it's like, I love that charm, but it's like we've been doing this for 20 some years, and it's like it just feels like. And here's the thing, Josh. Like when Oblivion came out, Fallout 3 came out, Skyrim came out, the thought when you played those games, the years they came out, was like, this is probably the best game I've played this year. I doubt I'll play something as good this year. Like, this is the best game. And when Skyrim came out and I played it, I was like, this is the game of the year for me. Like, nothing's going to top this. This is it. Easy. But since Skyrim, they haven't made a game as good as Skyrim yet. Fallout 4, Starfield, Fallout 76, they've continued to make the same game, but almost not quite as good, or with more problems.
Well, what if someone came to you and said, well, Brian, at least in Fallout 4, they tried to innovate by adding a lot of building and also a voice protagonist for the first time. What would you say to that?
Well, I would say like the building was a little bit. I mean, I know there was already games that were doing building, but like building's something that's blown up over the last 10 years. So Fallout 4 was kind of a little bit ahead there. Like I know they actually introduced a very light version of that in the Hearthfire DLC for Skyrim in 2011.
True.
So like,
very true.
Yeah, I'll give them that a little bit, but like it just feels like they're making the same game over and over again with diminishing returns. Is kind of the way I would put it. And I just don't know that if Elder Scrolls 6 is literally, if Elder Scrolls 6, like, come back and listen to this when Elder Scrolls 6 is out. Like, if Elder Scrolls 6 is, you have 5 main factions, and, there's one of them's the main story. One's one where you kind of steal things or go espionage or stealth, like a Thieves Guild. Mm-hmm. One's like where you murder people, like a Dark Brotherhood. And then there's a bunch of random quests and janky NPCs. Like, if it's just the same thing again, will it make me feel like Skyrim did in 2011? And I'm not necessarily saying, like, not every game can be Skyrim. Like, they can't replicate that Skyrim moment every time. But, like, I just feel like they gotta do something different. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not... When in 2011 I played Skyrim, I said, well, this is the best game I played this year, bar none. And by the time months had passed, years had passed, I still believe that. Starfield, in my first playthrough, it didn't take me long to go, well, this isn't my favorite game this year. Well, this isn't the best game this year. Like, it was pretty... I was lost in the sauce with the earlier Bethesda games. It was just like, this is the best. But, like,
good phrasing.
I've seen this so many times that they don't have me like that anymore. They don't have me with that awestruck sense of wonder to where I'm going, this is really the best. It's very clear to me quickly. It's like, I'm halfway through my playthrough. I'm like, oh, well, Baldur's Gate 3 was better. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was better. Now, I like Starfield better than those games, but it's like other games, Witcher 3 from years ago, even like, I don't think necessarily Cyberpunk's a better game, but Cyberpunk did things better than than Starfield did.
I almost get the impression you're saying like Starfield in of itself is fine, even though it doesn't innovate, but it's still really good. However, it just, considering this is their first new release in a long time, and then the next one is going to be Elder Scrolls, coming off of what is arguably considered the most popular video game of all time now these days. It's a bit concerning that it hasn't quite changed in formula. Is that what you're saying?
And
Krabby Patty formula.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, it's Elder Scrolls, right? Like, we know the next game is Elder Scrolls. That is such a popular IP. You and I are going to be hyped through the roof. I mean, it's going to do well. It's going to be great. People are going to love it. And that's the thing, is I'm not even saying that that's not true for Starfield now. Like, Starfield had a ton of hype. A ton of people love it. I love it. I think this game is phenomenal. It's in a vacuum, Starfield is a phenomenal game. But throw Starfield into the industry in 2023 and look at the history of what we've received already this year and prior years and all the Bethesda games we've had 10 plus years ago. Mm-hmm. It's another Bethesda game. Like, if somebody says, would I like Starfield? I'd say, it's another Bethesda game in space. And if they go, oh, that's all I wanted, you go, okay, you're going to be happy. You're going to pretty much be happy. I mean, there is the little issues with, like, it taking longer to get started and stuff, but, like, and that's the thing, is if there's somebody listening to this right now who goes, Brian, all I want for the rest of my life is Bethesda to do Bethesda over and over again with no change. That would make me happy. That's why I love this game. And I would say, I don't blame you, dude. Like, yeah, go for it. Like, I don't even think you're wrong for wanting that. Like, because that's what you're getting. Like, you're getting what you're asking for. But for me, it's just like, I guess I never thought, like, when I played Skyrim, if you told me in the future they were going to do a Skyrim in space, I would have been like, well, that's the game of the year that year, right? Like, that's just it. But here we are, arrived, 12 years later, and I'm like, nah, it's a really good game that I love, but it's not even the best one I've played this year, and it's not going to be, Yeah.
I'm asking a question that could be, I don't know. It's not.
Go ahead. I don't care. I don't care if I look like a villain. Is that what you're doing?
No. It's kind of a toxic sounding question, and I don't feel that way. I just want to ask it for the sake of conversation. But, like, let's pretend we're someone on Twitter, right? Or in the nebulous of Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And Skyrim, you're talking about Skyrim with somebody, and you're talking about how this was just GOAT status, amazing game, I keep going back to blah, blah, blah. But then someone says to you, but ever since then, it's like, their games have been mid. Fallout 4, mid. Starfield, mid. If someone's just having that kind of conversation, I mean, how does that make you feel? Do you kind of see where they're coming from, or you're like, no, I don't agree with that at all?
I wouldn't agree with that at all, because I don't think there's anything about Bethesda's games that are mid. These are exceptional AAA games, made by extremely talented studios.
The reason I asked that was just because it's like, I mean, I think everyone agrees, at least, even though these games are amazing, I don't think for the majority of people, like, if I had to guess, 90% of people feel like the releases since Skyrim haven't hit the same way Skyrim did.
I think what you're saying,
which is unfair, because if in the conversation I'm
we had this conversation in the Discord yesterday, actually. Words that lose their meaning, right? I think mid is losing its meaning. I don't think it, because, like, I think what you're talking about is diminishing returns. If people say, this was mid, that was mid, Fallout 4 was mid, Starfield.
Yeah, I don't like the term. I don't like the term too much, but I just know
diminishing returns.
No, just mid. Mid. I get it. The reason why I'm asking is because, like, I know for some people they could try to spin it as a big concern for Bethesda. Like, I enjoyed Fallout 4 for what it was. Starfield, I can tell I'm really going to love it for what it is. I don't think either of those are going to end up hitting the same high as Skyrim did for me. But even then, I would tell you that I haven't really peaked in Bethesda land since Oblivion. That's my favorite game they've ever done for me. So, but I know for some people, like, clickbaity wise, they could try to spin that as like, should we be concerned for the future of Bethesda?
Yeah.
And I don't think so, but I just think that's interesting to kind of wax on a little bit.
Yeah, I do. I think people are seeing the word mid as diminishing returns more than mid. Because mid for me means it's a middling game, right? And I don't think Starfield's a middling game by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think Halo Infinite is a middling game by any stretch of the imagination. But they're both games that are diminishing returns. It's something we've seen before, not as impressive or not as well done as it has been in the past. And I think that's the case here. When I come to an 8 out of 10 for the score, for me it's like, and scores are kind of silly. I know we love them, but they're kind of silly. And, like, criticism doesn't have to equal a point off or a point on. But for me, it's like this. If you start at a 10 out of 10, this game is immediately down to a 9 because I've seen it all done before. I've played it before. And then it's another point down because it has quite a lot of problems, despite it being such an exceptional game. The procedural generated planets, they kind of suck. Most of the time I just don't. I kind of hate it there. I get there and I literally run for 5 minutes and I've seen nothing, or I've seen the same things over and over again. The constantly in menus all the time, the constantly loading all the time, the how long it takes to get anywhere when the game starts. It has real problems that sink it down, and it's the same thing I've seen before, so it's an 8 out of 10. But it's the strongest 8 out of 10 I can give it. If somebody said a 9 out of 10, I would say, yeah, I get that too. I get it. I'm not... It's not like I think my score that's 1 point different than yours is it's like so much more superior or anything like that. I can pretty much... just at the same rate, anybody who is kind of like at the 6 or lower, I'm kind of like, I respect your opinion, but I just don't see it, because this is an exceptional designed game, like a really good game by Bethesda that I freaking love. It's got such good writing and quests and stuff like that. So I don't understand these low scores. Like, I shouldn't even call him out, because I think he's very uncredible. Jimquisition, gave it a 4 out of 10. I'm like, it's just a joke. I mean, come on, really? Like a 4 out of 10 for this game? I mean, what are we even talking about at this point? And then, a lot of outlets gave it a 10 too, and I'm like, I don't know how you give this a 10. I mean, some will, but I'm like, it's a game with issues that we've played 5 times before. I just don't know how you come at a 10. So I'm at a very strong 8. I love this game. I'm happy with it. I think I am a bit surprised. If you go back before the game came out and you just reflect on the hype we had, and like, oh man, Starfield's gonna be so... Like, go think about when we watched the E3 presentation or whatever, the Summer Games Fest presentation.
Right.
Like, I think back then the thought was, this could be a 10 out of 10. This could be like, maybe this is the Skyrim moment again. But I think after playing it, it's very clear it was never going to be that. It was going to be just more of the same from a studio we love, and they're going to do a great job at it. So.
Well, tell me this, Batman. I got a couple of questions for you about this before we move on. First off, do you feel like this game is going to be the turnaround for Xbox? Is this, we're going to look back on this and say Starfield is where they turned it around and ship-shaped it right up?
I think my short answer is yes. Yeah. Okay. This is what they need. I mean, this is a stellar game to have as an exclusive IP. Like, I do think this is worth buying a console. If you like Bethesda games, it's definitely worth buying a whole console for Starfield.
Hell yeah. Okay. Second question, I totally forgot. The other one is I don't.
You could have framed the third question as your second question, and no one would know you forgot.
Well, I'm an enigma, Batman. I like to speak in riddles. Yeah. My third question. You mentioned this in the Discord, I think, or maybe it was on the phone. I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast, and maybe your opinion's changed since we spoke about it. But around the time you were finishing up, or you were around that 61 hours I mentioned earlier. I remember you telling me, and I'm paraphrasing, but you were saying, like, you were starting to kind of have a different opinion of that IGN 7 out of 10, and just where you were kind of at on that. Like, and I think Maddie Plays on Defining Duke was maybe talking about it. I can't remember. I want to give you the chance to talk about that. I appreciate you
bringing this up. I wanted to start this podcast with this conversation right here, but I forgot entirely. I completely flip-flop changed my mind to the opposite direction. If you go back and listen to our review in progress episode for Starfield, I said that me and Josh, I think Josh's opinion's still the same as it should be. Mine's completely changed. That this game should have been a review in progress. This game should not have been scored after
stand by that.
After only 2 weeks of playing it. And I don't agree with that at all anymore. Because I pretty much, my 61 hours, and I'm at 70 now, but my wrap-up point was at 2 weeks and 1 day is when I obviously had way less time to play it than reviewers did because of my life circumstances. And I exhausted all of the main content. I did, companions, the quest lines, all that stuff. And I traveled and messed with all the systems. And like, I really felt pretty done with the game. And I've as I've played a few more hours now, I still feel done, but I'm just kind of beating around and just picking up some stuff, having some fun. But like, I think maybe I conflated a bit because like when me and Josh did that review in progress episode, I was at 25 hours of play over like a few days. Mm-hmm. So I was doing a review in progress because I had only played it for a few days. So I think I was kind of equivalating my review in progress to the reviewers that had 2 weeks to play it. And it wasn't the same. They'd had 2 weeks. I'd had a few days. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it needed to be a review in progress for me because we did a podcast 3 or 4 days after it came out. But now at 3 weeks since it came out, I feel like I completely have an idea of the game. And when I go and look at all these reviews and how long they said they played and what their opinions of the game are, it seems to make, even if their review score is different than mine, it seems to line up with me. They have the same criticisms I have oftentimes. I know some of them said like the main quest wasn't good and it was skippable, which I don't understand that. I think it's one of Bethesda's better quest lines and the best quest line in this game. So I don't agree with everything, but like the 7, you know, like the 7 seems harsh for me in the sense that after playing this game and loving it so much, I'm like, 7 seems kind of low for the work that went into this game. But a 7 still is, I mean, if you don't view it like high school where a 7's like a D minus or a failing, like if you actually view it as a 5 is an average and a 6 and a 7's better, I kind of do see a 7 here when you factor in all the years of Bethesda doing the same thing and then them introducing like loading times and clunky menus and stuff like that, and like not having like a step out moment kind of thing. Like those weren't really issues you had in Skyrim or Fallout so much. Okay. So when you take the fact that it's like a game that's been done many times before by the same studio, and then you introduce new problems that were never there in the past, procedural generation wasn't something everyone really commented on in any other Bethesda game either. I start to understand where you can land at like a 7. You know, it's still hard for me to kind of grasp because I do think it's such a great game. You know, I almost when I finished this game and I saw the ending of the main quest, I kind of wanted to give it a 9 because I loved that main quest. I was like, this was so good. I loved how it wrapped up. I loved how it incorporated my choices. But as I sat on it for a couple of days, I was like, no, this really was. I feel like if I'm trying to get my feelings out of it, this really was an 8 out of 10 experience. So I think the reviewers were pretty fair on this game. I mean, okay. I think people just wanted it to be that. You know, that's why Phil said even if it's an 11 out of 10 game, it won't turn around and sell Xboxes like crazy. It's because so many of us wanted it to be an 11 out of 10 game. And we talked about it like that. Like there's so much pressure and hype on this game. We wanted it to be an 11 out of 10. We thought, well, okay, 11 out of 10, you know, you can't really get that score. So maybe it will be a 10 out of 10. Maybe it will be like really, you know, something
Grand
out
Slam
there.
meatball. Sure.
And,
sure.
And no, it just turned out to be another great game by Bethesda Studios that in a lot of ways is a step up from Fallout. And in other ways it falls shorter, I think, you know. But yeah, it had so much pressure and so much hype, so much expectations. I look at these reviews, and also I look at the Metacritic score, which I am trying to take the Metacritic score a little less seriously now that I've learned that the scores are weighted, where they choose like IGN score is worth more than someone else's, which doesn't seem. Did you know that, Josh?
No.
I talked about that in the Discord like a week ago. They actually weight their scores. So like if I'm just using examples here, I don't know which ones, but like IGN, their score will count for more towards the average than maybe Destructoids would, which seems
really.
Yeah, that's actually on the website. You can see in their FAQs that they do that. So I'm like, kind of don't like that. Seems,
I don't either.
You know, so I'm like, I try to take that a little less seriously. But when I look at it, I think it's sitting at an 84 now on Metacritic, which is just them averaging all these scores. Obviously, problems aside, I'm like, well, yeah, if I'm at an 8 out of 10, you know, and you see a lot of people throwing 9s, you see a lot of people throwing 7s, whatever. 84 seems pretty accurate for this game, you know, and it's not what. The fact that they could release a game that's just like Skyrim in a lot of ways 12 years later and introduce a few more problems and have it be an 84 in 2023, I think that speaks to the quality of this game and how good it is and how great of a studio this is. And, you know, when you ask me, Brian, what do you want for Elder Scrolls 6? I'm going to say I want more Bethesda, right? I want Elder Scrolls and I want them to do more of... I want the charm, I want that stuff, but... I am not a talented developer with a lot of skill and passion and history for this. They, as a professional studio, they need to be the ones to figure out how to make Elder Scrolls 6 innovate and be something special. That's not for me to figure out. You know, I'm the consumer.
What if they innovate, sir, with larger than, like, more land than we've ever imagined in an Elder Scrolls game to explore and traverse, but there is a lot of it that is procedurally generated? How does that make you feel?
I mean, if it can convince me that it's handcrafted still, you know what I mean? Like when I go on a planet in Starfield, there's no part of me that thinks it's handcrafted. It looks procedurally.
You know, well, I asked this too because I mean, I think it was the first Elder Scrolls or one of the first ones that, like, you know, it was procedurally generated.
The second one,
yeah. And I'm just thinking, like, man, if we're getting this far with where things kind of like the DNA kind of started with Hearthfire and Skyrim, but it really took off in Fallout 4, and now it's like fully open, like planets. You know, how big of a game can we expect from Elder Scrolls 6? But also, like, what are they going to take from? What are they testing out in Starfield that they're going to later refine and utilize in Elder Scrolls 6?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I mean, if I knew how they could innovate, then it would already be being done, right? I mean, like and that's the thing. I want to make it clear here at the end. I don't think that they need to innovate to put out great games. I think Elder Scrolls 6 will probably be phenomenal, especially with Microsoft's backing and help now, and they're focusing on one platform. I'm sure Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be a banger, just like this game's a banger. Starfield is a banger, but.
Well, let me ask you something else.
I think Bethesda was. It seemed like Bethesda was a studio that wanted to be innovative and ahead of the game, right? I felt like that's what they were. You know, maybe they don't care about that as much anymore, or maybe just the fact that they're the only ones that do Creation Engine is what made them seem so innovative for so long. And now that we've just seen the Creation Engine,
well, I don't know,
iterated over and over again.
Let's look at it a whole different way. Like maybe, you know, with the whole, they kept talking. Todd Howard kept driving in these last several years about how they want to make another game that you can play for like 10 years.
Yeah.
How do you do that? You give a lot of uncharted planets that people can build stuff off of if they want to.
True, but I also don't think we should give them any credit in review scores for the fact that this game could be modded into something else.
I'm not suggesting that. I don't think that.
No, but I knew you weren't, but a lot of people have been saying, but like, what about the mods or the modding potential? And I'm like, yeah, but the game they deliver us.
Because you and I are vanilla as fuck.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to these,
we don't really play mods.
I don't mind mods. I love that they're there. I love seeing the Star Wars ones, the Randy Savage shit from Skyrim, all that type of stuff. But I just want the actual lore that they implemented.
Yeah. But to be fair, even though we don't play the mods, that still stands. You don't get to have your review score bumped up because of what potentially could be done with. Because
it should be the base vanilla game. Yeah. What's there? What's on offer?
Because think about let's say in 10 years. I mean, probably way sooner than this. Probably. But think in 10 years, if we get a Starfield re-release for the next Xbox that has like all the mods built in, and they've removed loading screens, and it's 60 frames. Imagine in 10 years we're playing a Starfield where none of the 1,000+ planets are procedural generated because of mods, and there's no loading screens, and it's 60 frames. That might feel like, holy shit, like every planet I land on is full of unique zones, quests, and characters, all 1,000 of them, and there's no loading screens. I just go from planet to planet, and it's 60 frames, maybe it's 120 frames. That could be, but then again, that's the thing. By 10 years of technology increasing and mods coming in, by then another studio could have released a game that already felt as innovative as Starfield hopes to be. To by the time we get that, we've already seen it. You know what I mean? Like it's it's kind of like you know, if we get quests that are very similar to Skyrim in Elder Scrolls 6, that's not going to make me forget about Witcher 3, right? Like Witcher 3's quests to me stand above Skyrim's. So it's like...
That's tough. Elder Scrolls, this whole discussion is just making me realize how much of a microscope the next Elder Scrolls is going to fall under. That could be another game that is a genuine 10 out of 10, but because it's been X amount of years since Skyrim, and maybe it's potentially, you know, in a lot of ways the same, in a lot of ways maybe too much like Starfield with some of the Uncharted stuff in its own ways. I don't know, but I mean, I could see people really critiquing that one because it's like... You know, it's like when Force Awakens came out for Star Wars. It's like, you're the first Star Wars movie to come out in a long time, and we thought Revenge of the Sith was the last one. We don't count the Clone Wars movie, so this is the next big step. So then it falls under a microscope. And I'm not saying it does deserve or doesn't deserve the criticisms, but like it takes on a lot more expectations than just like when Skyrim came out, people were just excited. I don't remember anybody really having expectations. It was just being excited for the video game. Now expectations, maybe it's just me getting older and being more privy to that, but I don't know. That's interesting. The other thing I had to ask you though, man, is, and maybe you said this, maybe you didn't, but I feel like I've seen some people talk about this in the Discord. But there was a popular thread on Reddit that said, it asked, why is the Crimson Fleet so PG-13? And I feel like I saw some people talk about how like not necessarily mature a lot of the elements in this game feel. Was that something that you kind of came across, or that didn't really...
That never stuck out in my mind at all.
Okay. Because I feel like I've seen that talked about a couple places. But I've only played 4 hours, so what do I know?
One of my introductions to the Crimson Fleet was two guys arguing, and then the other one shooting the guy in the head, and he falls to the ground and shoots him in the head a couple more times. So,
ooh, that doesn't sound PG-13 if he's hitting the double, triple, quadruple tap.
Yeah,
damn.
And then the person next to him was just like, clean that body up. Like they didn't even care that he was murdered. They're just like, clean the body up. Like get him out of here. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what they're talking about, but I don't know. And that's the thing too is, I mean, I wish we're 55 minutes in here, and there's another huge thing I haven't even touched on, which is the super disingenuous discourse around this game. You know. And of course, it makes it sound like I'm patting myself on the back as something better than someone else. But like, I feel like everything I'm bringing to the table here is me trying to be honest and fair. I'm not hating on the game. I'm not,
look at Brian, Mr.
Yeah, I know, right?
Holier than thou.
Right? But so much of the discourse online, it's disingenuous. It's like this game's, Starfield's not even a 5. This game sucks. Or Xbox got a dud. Or, you know, all there is to do in this game is just, all you do is load screens. You don't actually get to play. It's like the whole game's procedurally generated.
Sounds like PlayStation fanboys. I'm not saying
there's a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is PlayStation fanboys. Like, I mean, it's a really good game.
Which I know Xbox can be like that too. Xbox fanboys can be like that toward PlayStation.
And I mean, I think there's probably people on Xbox that are they're dogging this game too. But there's such a disingenuous people talking about this game like it's, even to say it's mid is insane to me. But then to say that it's bad, it's just. It's crazy, you know. It
comes down to expectations. We did an episode, I think, about the weight of expectations before and just how much that affects things.
There's definitely the expectations part, but I think there's literally just a part of even beyond that, just people they're just hating it to hate it. Like,
well, there is a such thing as hate watching and hate gaming, like hate playing. You know,
they're trying to drag this game down and pretend that it's something it's not. It is an exceptional game any way you spin it. Like This is a game that Xbox has that's special, that Sony doesn't. This is a game worth buying a console for. This is a game that's going to be in Game of the Year conversations probably. I think it's very clear that it's not the Game of the Year, but like it might not be. I think it probably will be mentioned at the Game Awards in the nominees.
It's got to be.
But even if it's not, it's going to be in IGNs or GameSpots or Polygons. Like, this game's going to show up places because...
It's going to win Game of the Year somewhere, you would...
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good game. Like, there's no way to spin this. It's just... So, and I think there's a lot of people that are going to hear this episode, and they're going to hear me talking about it's what Bethesda's done before, and even though it's really good, it's not innovative. I think there's going to be a lot of people that hear me talking about this, and they're going to go... You know, even if respectfully, they're going to go, Brian, I don't really care about any of that. You said the game's good. You said it's like Bethesda. I don't even care about what the rest of what you're saying is. And that's fair. But I think that I'm someone who enjoys I'm not a critic or a professional, but I'm somebody who enjoys the discourse of the video game industry. I enjoy the news. I enjoy talking about it with Josh and friends and everyone else. I've been that way since I met Josh. I care about this stuff. It interests me. I find it fascinating. And I want to cover all the areas of the game and the industry and what the perception of this is. I find it fascinating, and I think it's, it was cool to be in 2011 to see Skyrim and go, Skyrim, this is truly, we're witnessing one of the greatest games of all time. And it was, and it has a legacy of that, and it will always be mentioned.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But with Starfield, I want to mention what it is too. It's a game that sees a studio continuing to drop another banger from a new IP, but is not dropping a game that's going to, this isn't. I don't see Starfield making any top 100 lists like games of all time from like publications either.
A lot of people in the Discord are going to disagree with you. I don't know. That's how I feel. But what are you going to say, Josh? Well, I've always known you to be a very different gamer from I. So with something like this, when you're telling me you beat it, and then other people are like, this is, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember what Wesley or Colin or other people have said. We're just even outside of the Discord, but I know for a lot of people, 61 hours feels like they barely scratched the surface of this game. Mm-hmm. But I've just always known you, and I hope that you don't take this the wrong way, because I'm about to compare myself, and I don't think I'm in the best light with it myself about how I play, but to me, you've always been someone who, when it comes to something like an RPG, you're someone who wants the experience, the core experience, you get it, and then you get out, and you move on. And you do that because you're going to go back, and you're going to get a lot more repetition out of that. Replay value. But someone like me, when it comes to RPGs, is more like, I want to live in this world. I want to plant my feet here and stay for a while and get immersed in it. And you're like, I want to get the experience and get out. And I don't think either one's
characters. Yeah.
I don't think either one's better than the other. I don't. It's just two different ways of approaching.
But they're definitely two different ways that exist.
And I think that, for you guys listening, I mean, that hopefully that helps paint a picture of where Brian's coming from with his playthrough and experience.
Well, here's a fact I have to state. Like, if you don't think this is not a shot at you, Wesley, at all. If you don't think that my impressions or review of Starfield is credible because of the amount of time I've played it, then you're factually saying that none of my time with any of the Bethesda games are credible because I play them all the same way. You know what I mean? So like if this isn't enough of a playthrough or an experience with Starfield to make a real judgment, then I don't have real judgments on Fallout 4, 3, Skyrim, Oblivion. I don't, because that's how I played all them. And I've played Skyrim and Oblivion and Fallout 3 multiple times, 2, 3, 4 times over. I've played Fallout 4 only once, to be fair, but like for all the hours and decades of, or many years of experience I have with Bethesda games, if needing to play them far longer than this or to live in them is a requirement for having a good impression of it, then the fact is I don't have a good impression of any Bethesda game because I've played them all the same way. That's how I play them. So.
Well, I think to empathize with Wesley and his approach, I think even though him and I don't always necessarily agree on the same takes, I mean, I think he and I approach these sorts of games the same way in terms of just living in them and stuff. And it's cool to see Colin get real into a game like this because this is more of an RPG than a first-person shooter, despite it having first-person gameplay. So that's really cool to see. And a lot of the other people who have gotten... I mean, I still think about Albino's song. That's a legendary moment in Sacred Icon history.
I love that.
Singing Rocket Man.
I played that song a lot after that episode on my...
I don't blame you. Yeah. It's a great song anyway, but... you just play games differently. And it's like if I am going to put 300 hours in Baldur's Gate 3, you're going to beat it in, say, 60, but you'll replay it enough to match the time it took me for one playthrough. And that doesn't make me a more, better, lover of Baldur's Gate 3, or doesn't make you lesser, or doesn't make you more. It's just everyone's different with that stuff. And I think when we were younger, it used to, perturb me that you played games like that. But then as I got older, I was like, look at how long it's taken me to beat some of these games. Who am I to judge? And
see, I get that because right here in our own community, Montana Menace and Tony, they mainlined the main story of Starfield and quit.
Which sounds crazy, but that's awesome. I love that they played it the way they wanted to and got out of it.
It was like a 20-hour. This was like a 20-hour game to them. This was like they ran through a Halo campaign,
right?
And they quit. See, when you say that used to bug you, I get that because when they told me they were done with Starfield at 20 hours, I'm like, my first thought in my head is you didn't experience UC Vanguard, Crimson Fleet. You didn't do any of the companion quests. You didn't experience Ryujin. Did you visit this planet? Did you ever meet Grandma? You know what I mean? That's the kind of thoughts that went through my head. But then immediately it's crossed out by, well, this is how they want to play the game. This is what was worth it to them. This is how they enjoyed the experience. And I think it was Montana Menace. I don't think Tony ever gave it a score, but Montana Menace gave it an 8 out of 10. And it's just interesting, isn't it?
Oh, that's awesome.
He gave it an 8 out of 10 for playing just the main story in 20 hours, and I gave it an 8 out of 10 for playing, at this point, 70, and doing all the major factions and quest lines and stuff. And then you're going to have someone like Wesley or Diente come in with 100-plus hours and give it their score. So you have all these different varying, these variables of how people have played and what scores they give. So it's like, what do you say about Montana Menace's 8 and my 8? Because they're the same score, but we had vastly different experiences. If Montana Menace was made to do all the quest lines and companion stuff like I did, he might be like, man, I got sick of that shit. I got bored. I was tired of it.
It's just different how different people play. You're and again, don't take this the wrong way because it's not a bad thing at all. You're if it's a band and you're listening to their discography, you're more of a greatest hits type of listener versus I'm going to check out their entire discography. Now, when it comes to actual music, I know that's not the case. You're wearing a Deftones hoodie right now. I know you love them.
That's funny. That is a good example. It's funny though because I'm very strictly an album person over a single
absolutely,
person.
And I am too. But I get that, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's that's what, because you're going to go and you're going to listen to this stuff over and over. You're going to play this stuff over and over and over. You're going to you've replayed just about every game more than I ever have. I don't think anyone has me beat on Mass Effect, which is why I have such a strong opinion of it these days.
The first one?
Yeah. But
I've replayed that twice.
Okay. It's close to 10 times for me, which is insane. But
I think on our episode with Haruspis, he said something like 37.
Okay. So I'm in second.
I think he said that on our episode.
But it's not a competition. I think that's why I get so strong with it. And to be fair, I know I made a joke about that earlier, guys, but I love anyone that still loves Mass Effect. I have my own gripes with that first game, but it's a great game. No, man. There's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way you play and the fact that you feel like you've gotten all the juice out of the squeeze of that game. Is there anything else you want to do in that game left to do? Where are you at now? We got Spider-Man 2 coming October 20th and everything after. Where are you at right now with Starfield? And is there anything you're thinking about playing or have already started playing leading up to that game?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done with Starfield. I have a feeling I'll probably get on one more time just to kind of say my piece with it and then maybe in a year or two I'll be like
stare at like a moon and then just be like, I'm done now.
I'll do like a Josh with Fallout, like take all my clothes off and just die.
Are you really going to do that?
No, I mean I could if you want.
Oh, well, I mean that's your playthrough, buddy. You do what you want, Brian.
Josh is like, I want you to take off all your clothes.
I think that's a cool concept.
Yeah. No, I'll eject myself into space and just let myself suffocate, and that'll be the end of it.
Oh wow!
But no, I'll probably be replaying Starfield in 2024 or 2025. I'll be like, I'm gonna start. And what I'll do is I'll do the New Game Plus, which something else I didn't mention too is the New Game Plus for this game is the coolest New Game Plus I have ever seen in my life, and that is how I'm gonna play my next playthrough is through the New Game Plus, which is really cool. But no, I'm done with Starfield. Here's what I want to do. I don't know if I'll have time, but here's what I want to do. I want to play the Resident Evil 4 DLC that just came out.
That's right. What's it called again?
It's Separate Ways, and it's like a 4-hour experience.
Every time I hear that, it just makes me think of Journey, the band Journey. That's a song. Separate Ways, Worlds Apart. It's only $10. I want to play that, and then I immediately want to go into in 3 days. I want to play Cyberpunk over again. I want to start it from fresh and do the 2.0 update. You're taking me to Cream City with that one, Brian. I love that.
Phantom Liberty, baby.
Yeah. So how are you going to approach this? You're going to go in just starting the base game, working your way through, or are you going to just boot up fresh. Phantom Liberty? Okay.
Nope. I'm going to start a brand new character, do all through the main story, go into Phantom Liberty. Because I want to see what this game plays like with the 2.0. I haven't played it since launch, so the updates are going to feel crazy, dude.
Now, are you going to try to do like some of the actual side quests? I'm not talking about like the gigs where it feels a little more like just combat scenarios and shit like that with a little bit of dialogue. I'm talking actual side quests.
I think I'll pick up some like substantial side quests. Okay. But the problem is since they don't, to my knowledge, CD Projekt Red doesn't like section their stuff off as factions like Bethesda does.
No.
So I probably won't do as full of a playthrough even as I did a Starfield because of that, because I won't know like, this is a line of quests.
Right in your face spelled out for you.
But I feel with Phantom Liberty, I'll probably get close to 50 hours of Cyberpunk.
I think it's fascinating that one of the reviews said it was around 30 hours just between doing like 100%ing basically all of what that game or all of that expansion was offering. I think that's awesome. 30 hours. I mean, that's what Blood and Wine was. That's exactly what Blood and Wine was. It was like a 30-hour experience.
Yeah, I'm excited.
What a way to go out. Awesome.
I want to meet Idris Elba so bad, so.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for that game too, even though I'm probably not going to play it this year with everything coming out, but I mean,
by the time I finish up Cyberpunk, should be Spider-Man 2's release at that point.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. It's just going to be cool to see it have this roundabout way, like, you said it before, but them thinking of themselves when designing that game as the people who made Witcher 3, to see them go through the journey they went through, get very humbled with the launch and everything, and now we're so far away from the last gen of consoles, at least it feels like it, that this game has really had a good comeback story. And I hate that. I hate that that's the era we're in with this industry. Yeah. It gets better, it got better type of thing. But at the same time, I'm happy to see it with the game that, for a while was, I was anticipating it, on the same level of Halo 3 for a little bit. But I'm
what I love is it's cool to be CD Projekt Red and say, hey, we got these two tentpole IPs, Cyberpunk and Witcher. What awesome IPs to have. Mm-hmm. It kind of reminds me of Bethesda in that way. Like they were just, they were just Elder Scrolls Fallout. Now they got Starfield as well. But like, that's just, I like that when a studio has two really strong IPs. Because here's the thing, like, Cyberpunk, and maybe this will change once I replay with the 2.0 update and the expansion and stuff, but Cyberpunk didn't make my top 50 list. I talk about my top 50 list. It's kind of like that's where the games I herald, the games that I really care about a lot. For as much as I like Cyberpunk, it didn't make the top 50, so like it's not like up there for me, but I'll probably be, provided I feel it won't be broken and it looks good, I'll probably be a day one buyer for Cyberpunk 2 or 2078 or whatever it's called,
That's awesome.
Because it's a great new franchise, and just like I'm going to buy Witcher, so.
I am looking forward to this kind of coming out, Phantom Liberty coming out, and then just kind of getting into the next era, because they have already said they're using aren't they using Unreal?
They're going full Unreal. That's why this game has one expansion, because they're dropping the red engine.
Yeah, they're moving forward. So I can't wait for that. I mean, they've already announced, they've already teased like a Witcher 4 or some kind of spin-off. And then, we got the Witcher 1 remake that they've already announced. and then they're definitely going to come back to Cyberpunk at some point. So I'm excited.
I think they already confirmed that. I think they confirmed a sequel to Cyberpunk's in the...
They got a pretty good partnership as far as I know with Mike Pondsmith. But
okay, Josh, you wanted to talk about... So I mean, to give my final... I played 70 hours. My character's level 40. Mm-hmm. I gave Starfield an 8 out of 10. It's probably... I mean, I haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet, but it's probably my second game of the year. Final Fantasy 16 is my game of the year.
Oh, man. I have to go on a tangent.
And I won't... I'm not saying that means Final Fantasy 16 is a better game than Starfield. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for me, personally. Because like the game of the year for me, or in my mind, is Baldur's Gate 3. But like for me, FF16.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's good, though. I respect that you have that take. Like a game that's not something you're necessarily... Like you're not even playing yet. That you're like, you can look at that and go, yeah, that's game of the year. That deserves it. That's cool.
Yeah, because I don't think I would say FF16... I don't think I would say FF16 unless I'm forgetting something. I don't think it's really innovative or anything like that. It's very high quality experience from the beginning to end.
That's awesome.
So
we got to talk about Rebirth in another episode soon.
Oh, I want to go on forever about Rebirth. I cannot
well, if I can go
wait.
on a tangent to maybe wrap this up too, put a little bow on it. They announced the other day that Spider-Man 2 is going to be roughly around the same length as Spider-Man 1. I think they said, maybe I'm paraphrasing, guys. I don't have it in front of me, but they said I think around like 26 hours or something like that, or like 17 if you're just kind of going through the story, 26 if you're trying to like do the completionist run. And I thought to myself when I saw that, cool. But I thought the old me would have really took beef with that, because I always used to think when I would get excited for a sequel, part of the idea would be in that bigger, badder, more badass mentality of like, now I'm going to get to live in this world a little bit more, a little bit longer. Yeah. And they're saying we're not only giving you two characters, NYC is a bit bigger now, but the time is going to be the same roughly to finish the game. And I just thought to myself, okay, like I've just really changed as a gamer, because when I think about something like Elder Scrolls or Starfield or stuff, back in the day I used to think I just want to live in this game. I want this to be my life. And even though I still approach RPG specifically that way, if I'm really enthusiastic about the IP, I don't approach gaming in general like that anymore. Some experiences I just want to get in and get out are the ones I want to live in. And I thought with Spider-Man, I'm like, I don't need it to be that anymore. I don't need it to be this huge, like bloated, blown up game. Like if everything in there is tight and fixed, like a lot of the side quests, some of the collectible stuff, which it looks to be a lot of quality of life improvements and stuff for Spider-Man 2, but it just made me think that like I'm okay with that. It made me realize like I think I'd leveled up like in real life and how I am as a gamer. Like that shouldn't bother me, but it used to. Now I'm just like, hell yeah, that's awesome.
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that, because like, and I do, like, I gotta honestly shout out. I gotta give credit to Wesley, because I think he gives at least me, if not us, a lot of good talking points. Here I am mentioning him again, but one of the things we were talking about when we're talking about the whole how long I played Starfield thing is, I told him that I never feel like I'm left out of the conversations from any games I play when I don't 100% them, right? Like when I like Josh, you and me have talked about Spider-Man 1, we've talked about Skyrim, we've talked about, you name the game that we've both played.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you ever really talk to me and feel like I don't have a grasp of the game, or I haven't played it like you have. Usually we talk about Sunday
football in the Discord.
That's something different. but like if I say Josh, remember the Kingpin fight from Spider-Man, 1, or I talk about, you remember Miles Morales when you get to have like Thanksgiving dinner with his family at the house and you walk around.
Oh man, what a great moment! My favorite.
I'm saying?
In the entire game.
Like anytime I talk about any game that me and another person have played, we always talk about it the same. We always reflect on the same points, and it's not very often. I don't think it's ever happened to me actually that someone said, "Oh, Brian, it seems like you haven't even played the game. You didn't do this. That never happens." Now, there is times where people are like, "Oh, did you meet that one character on that planet in Starfield?" And I'll go, "Oh, no, I never did." And then they tell me, that definitely happens. But, like, I feel like that's the thing I think is interesting from these people that play 200 hours of Starfield or 300 hours of Skyrim versus my 70 hours is we always have the same conversations. We always talk about the same thing. Do you remember Cicero from Skyrim? Yeah, Cicero was awesome, What do you think about the the part where in the Stormcloaks you got to run and take down Whiterun. We always talk about it. So it's like, for instance, Spider-Man 1, I never did the side quest in that game. I didn't want to. I just did the main story.
Story beats are more accessible to talk about, whereas the other stuff, the extracurricular stuff, is more nebulous.
But I think it's really good that, of course, I would choose that they put this extra stuff in the game, right? Because it's more content for our money, right? And it's a good argument, too. People be like, well, Brian, you bought Spider-Man for $70. Why'd you just play 25 hours of the main story when you could have got 40 if you had done all the extra content? Well, because what makes me happy is beat it in 25, and then, honestly, there's been times, I know this has happened before, there's been times where I would beat Spider-Man or something like that, and then I'd immediately restart it, do another playthrough 25 hours again, and log 50 hours in the game and the same 40 that someone spent on a complete playthrough. Because for me, I wanted that crafted story experience.
Sure,
I enjoyed it so much. But it's
another way to look at it. I said this to you, and I got this from my coworker Steve. He was talking to me about it. But if you equate every hour you get out of a game to like $1 spent on it. Mm-hmm. Let's say you paid for the $100 edition. Let's deduct the $40, right, to make it appear $60, because you're going to play the expansion when it comes out. You did the same thing with frickin' Doom Eternal. You went and played Old Gods and all that shit. So you're going to go play all that content when it comes out. You're going to get your money's worth there.
To be fair, Josh, standard Starfield 70, just to be fair.
Okay. Yeah. It is 70. Look at what we've changed. Yeah. Look at me being old here. I don't know. I'm out of the loop. Brian's keeping me engaged. So if it's 70, what'd you say? Didn't you say you landed at like 71?
70 hours. No, just 70 hours.
Yeah. Flat 70. So in a sense, in that conversation, you got $1. You bang for your buck. That's what I'm trying to say.
Provided I live long enough, I will do that at least 2 more times before I die. Beat the whole game all over again. So,
and I paid $80 for Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm already at I'm a little over 50 hours now. I'm going to be so interested to see how you go through that game, because they're saying minimum it's like 60 to 80. I'm like, huh. I wonder how that's going to shape up for Brian, who's more of a, speed demon.
I probably have like 120 hours logged because I keep dying in combat.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
Definitely possible.
Yeah.
But dude, that's awesome. You talking about Starfield has only ever gotten me more interested. I love the contrast you have with Wesley and Colin in a lot of ways. I love seeing, even though sometimes I don't get to read all the stuff you guys talk about, seeing the enthusiasm that they're bringing, that you're bringing, and then what you got out of it versus what they're getting out of it. It's really exciting to see. I love seeing that in the Discord.
And to be fair too, and I'm gonna attack
and everyone else
here.
That's playing it too. I know we got other people.
Yeah, there's just people that are talking about it the most in the Discord. Yeah. But I'll attack myself here too to make it fair. But the thing is with like Wesley and Colin, this was his most hyped game potentially of his life.
I'm so happy for him, genuinely, that it turned out as.
So that could skew his opinion because of his hype.
Sure.
And then you have Wesley, who's like Bethesda fanboy 101, which could skew his hype. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean my hype can't be skewed, and at the same time, my hype is going to be skewed when it comes to like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or even the fact
you were already putting it in your top 50.
Oh, just for fun. That's
I know,
bullshit.
I'm not giving you shit, but no,
I would never trust that shit. I wouldn't trust my own list, but it's just for fun. But like Final Fantasy 16 is my game of the year. I mean, there's a lot of people in the Discord who know me or in the community who know me who go, well, Brian's got Final Fantasy game in his top. It's his game of the year. I mean, well, big surprise. Like, yeah, I have a bias towards, like I like Final Fantasy more than I like Bethesda games. You know what I mean? So like,
Rebirth game of the year, 2024 already. You call it?
I mean, it's probably right, unless they screw it up. But games have come out and sucked before, so you never know. But that's another thing cool too, Josh. Is like you're talking about like doing 100% in games and stuff. Well, I watched the hands-on previews for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I guess that game's going to be very like legit open world with like going and doing side quests and random stuff in the open world. And I was watching that stuff, and I was getting so hyped, and I was like, I am going to do every single side quest, every single thing I'm going to pick up. And I felt that way, and I don't know why, because I never feel like every time I watch that for most previews, I'm like, not going to do that, not going to do that, not going to do that.
Which direction is the main question? That's where I'll go.
Yeah, but this one, I'm like, I got to make sure I do everything because I want to have all the time. I want to get every moment I can out of 7 Rebirth. But Josh, did you still want to talk about other stuff, or are we wrapping up? I didn't know what where you were.
No, yeah, we love Wesley and Diente, and what I love about Wesley is the fixation he gets on a lot of the stuff, isn't it? It's just like the way he'll talk about it. And he's so knowledgeable on Elder Scrolls lore and stuff like that. Like, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, prior to like us doing Sacred Icon, I'm thinking to myself like, okay, I'll give Creighton, credit as the biggest like Elder Scrolls fan I know, but I'd say I'm the second out of the people I know. And then Wesley comes tooting up and down the Discord, and I'm like, hold on,
Yeah.
But and Colin,
and then, it's
go ahead.
Well, it's I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's funny because like, I like with Final Fantasy. I'm losing my train of thought here. I'm like, so the other day in the Discord, I don't remember, Josh, I dropped a tag everyone that said, because you replied to it. I was like, do you ever have like time passes and your score changes? Like, do you go back and change it, or do you leave it? Well, the reason I asked that question is because I was thinking of, because I feel like I have a very unbiased review of Starfield. Of course, everyone probably thinks that, but I feel like I have a very unbiased review of Starfield. I feel like it's a solid 8 out of 10. That's not me getting caught up in my emotions and hype. But then I realized that I gave Final Fantasy 16 a 9 out of 10 earlier this year.
Okay.
And I was thinking to myself, I've been thinking to myself a lot, trying to self-reflect. I'm like, that game hits closer to home for me. Is Final Fantasy 16 a 9, or is it like an 8, or is it like lower? And I'm just like, really, I have that bias there, And I've been trying to discern that, and I'm like, well, if I did decide I have a bias, would I go back and change it, or would I leave it? And it's a pointless thing, because like, what does it really mean? The points are made up, and the questions don't matter, or whatever. It's like, but it's like, I gave Final Fantasy 16 a 9. Now, if you look at the reviews for Final Fantasy 16. There's a lot of 9s and 10s and 8s and 7s. All that stuff's there for Final Fantasy 16 as well. So it's not like I'm crazy for giving it a 9. But when the game that's closer to me gets a 9, and then I give Starfield, which a game I feel I'm less biased on, I give it an 8. It just makes me wonder, am I being a little biased with that? Because the fact of the matter is,
some people listening probably thought you were going to say, am I being a little bitch with that?
Am I being a little bitch with that? Maybe. Because it's really hard to say if you're I mean, we all have biases. There's the biases that are there. Like Josh is a huge KOTOR fan. He knows that bias exists, but does he know, like if a KOTOR remake comes out and it's got the same combat as before, and Josh gives it a 10, and it's like, people are like, oh, well, the combat's aged in 2025, and Josh is like, no,
it's a 10 for me. I'm not giving it a 10.
Sometimes it's hard to tell where the bias ends and where it begins and stuff.
I know where it ends, but tell me. Do it.
I know where it begins, but tell me, where does it end, But, yeah, okay, Josh, take us over into what you want to talk about here.
That's fair, though. It's hard, because sometimes you want to, like, give a score for a game, and you're not trying to be harsh on it. Like, if I trigger anybody out there when I say Mass Effect 1 is a 5 out of 10, it's going to upset a lot of people. And I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to. It just depends on how I'm looking at it in the day and the context of the conversation. Like, in some ways I could say, like, well, I'm going to tell you all the things that are keeping it from getting to a 10. But then I could change on the other day on the flip side and just be like, well, here's all the things I think that push this game up to a 5. And maybe I seem biased, depending on what I say, and then maybe I don't. But it's hard, and who cares at the same time. If you love something, you love something. People are so excited for Starfield, and Xbox gamers finally have something they can brag about for the first time in forever.
Hit me up with the sound of somebody saying that they will subscribe to the $50 patron tier forever, provided you agree that at least one time on every podcast going forward, you say Mass Effect 1 is a 10 out of 10 game.
It's just one person signing up for a $50
permanently
for me to say
tier.
that Mass Effect is what?
A 10 out of 10 game. You have to say it once every podcast episode we do at some point in the episode.
Oh, don't sign up, guys, for that. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money.
You wouldn't do it?
No. Nope.
I figured you'd say that. I can't be bought, and I'd be like, Josh, $200 a month. I'd be like, okay, 10 out of 10.
No, no. Like I said before off air, like no one's ever gonna look at my ratings for anything and take that as like the de facto rating for anything. But I like to remain a constant in that. I'm very confident in my ratings, and people don't like that. That's no big deal, because everyone's gonna be different, and most people do. I think I'm a black sheep in that way. I'm the hipster guy, Like, everyone's playing the new hotness, and I'm like, I'm playing Chex Quest on my Nintendo Switch. So I'm that guy unintentionally. But no, I know Mass Effect's a 10 out of 10 for a lot of people. But case in point, I get where you're coming from, and everyone's got different ways of how they approach reviewing stuff. And I think the most important thing...
I wouldn't give Mass Effect 1 a 10.
Well, even so, you still give it a high rating, though, right? And... everyone's got
I give it a high rating. But I would give Mass Effect 2 a 10, and I think, once again, I feel like I'm patting myself on the back way too much, but I'm like, Guys, I really don't care about Mass Effect that much. Like, I really don't.
Yeah.
So when I say Mass Effect 2 is a 10, like, I think that some seriousness should be taken there. Because
Don't come attacking me, guys, okay? I don't hate that anyone feels differently than me, and I'm not saying my opinion is more right than anyone. Like, I put a target on my back. Every day I walk outside and breathe that Mass Effect 1 is a 5 out of 5, or 5 out of 10, not a 5 out of 5.
I think it'll give most people solace knowing that there's barely anyone else on the planet that would give it a 5, Josh.
Yeah, I know. Well, I gave Gears of War Judgment a 3 out of 10. So I just rate things differently. That's all. That's all.
I mean, but that
doesn't make me
seems
more right.
That seems more. I mean, it's lower than me, but like that seems more fair.
And
I think I would.
Wrong.
I think if I played Mass Effect 1 at launch, I might have gave it a 9. But with how janky it is and a lot of problems it has, and Uncharted Worlds being planned, feels like an 8 to me. I think for a Mass Effect 1, which is still way higher than your 5, but. No, it's not. I think the only Mass Effect to ever come out that's a 10 is 2. I mean, 2 was.
I know a lot of people. It's their favorite game. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I watched a friend play 2 at launch because I had no interest in Mass Effect, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. Every conversation, every quest, everything that went down in Mass Effect 2, I was just like, I remember watching him play it and being like, "This game's freaking amazing." I have no interest in playing it.
Yeah.
But this game's freaking amazing. Of course, years later, I got into it. So.
Yeah. No, I get it, man.
Take us forward, Josh.
Is my favorite one, dude, and but I don't hate anybody that feels differently about Mass Effect 1 or any other game or movie. You know, ratings are just numbers. They're fun ways to sort of aggregate where someone takes and how they approach a game or a movie. But I nowadays I'm really more interested in asking people the fun factor of what they got out of something, because that's the other stuff really divides people, and I'm looking more for unity. And if people love Mass Effect 1, for example, as a 10 out of 10 or 11 out of 10, I think that's awesome. That's awesome.
Maddie Plays, someone that me and Josh really like to watch their content.
Love Maddie
YouTube.
Plays.
His opinion, I actually completely agree with his opinion. He doesn't believe that scores are beneficial in any way.
No,
he believes games shouldn't be reviewed with scores. They should just be reviewed with your opinions and your pros and cons, and leave it at that, and let people, because the score ends up what dictates the conversation, and it's not really reflective how you actually felt as much. And I actually think he's 100% right.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I go, but I like scores. I'm going to do it.
No, it's fun. It's fun for our OCD brains that obsess over that stuff. But I do agree with him, because that's how I try to approach the objective takes I have on stuff. It's like if I'm putting 10 people in a room and I'm having them all play Knights of the Old Republic. Let's say I give that game an 8 out of 10. Let's say overall, that's me saying that 8 people in this room that are all, out of the 10 that are all interested in video games, are all video game people. I'm guessing, I'm betting that 8 of them are going to enjoy this game out of the 10. That's really where I'm coming from. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, it's all.
Who cares?
Like I said, the questions are made up and the points.
The more interesting stuff is the pros and cons. Like that way, because that way you can use your best, gauge on what they're saying to get a better idea of where you're going to stand on that game. Like, are these pros listed something that's going to get me? Wow, you can do that. Oh, now I got to check out gameplay. Now I got to pre-order. Cons, it's like
the one thing. Yeah. The one thing I like about the numbers, though, is I feel like if someone listened to this episode and I never said 8 out of 10, people might take my score as less for Starfield.
I think they would.
Yeah, I think they would. So it's like, I think the score enables me to tell you guys, like, this game's awesome, and I had such a freaking good time with it, like 8 out of 10, Whereas I think if people had just listened to what they were having me say, they might be like, is Brian at like a 6?
But to be fair, you and I have always been more roundabout discussion-oriented people. Like, we kind of go in a roundabout way. Like, if something's a 10 out of 10, we're going to talk about the criticisms first, or maybe try to look at it as objectively as we can, like, as far removed from our bias, even though the bias is there. It's like a slingshot. We're going to come back, or a rubber band. You can only go so far away from that objective.
What is a game you give an objective 10 out of 10 to, Josh? If it's KOTOR, pick a different one, because you say that you talk about KOTOR a lot.
Oh man, that's a good question. But off the top of my head, probably Last of Us 2. No, no, because as much as I feel that way subjectively, like, it has pacing issues when it just completely switches up as Abby. Even though I like the Abby stuff. I don't know. I don't know.
Like, I'm obviously, I have plenty of bias, but I think Ocarina of Time's a 10.
Okay. Yeah, and I haven't played that, so I believe it, and I take your word for it. The only reason I say that is because it's the same thing as you talked about earlier about diluting, like how things can get diluted. To me, if I'm throwing out a lot of 10s, even though, again, no one's going to care what my opinion is on a game, what a rating is, but if someone out there did, You know, if I'm constantly throwing out 10s, I feel like that dilutes the sincerity or genuineness of what I'm rating. Because if someone asks me about 10 games and they tell me to rate them, and like I rate more of them 10 than not, or close to 10, you're not really getting a good idea of like where my criticism may be, like where my level-headedness may be on these things. And that's why it's hard for me, because if I'm giving something a 10, that's my way of saying like, I don't give a fuck who you are and like how you're interested and how you approach games. You will enjoy this. You will love this, you know, but again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But on
take
to...
us into, what you got, Josh? No,
so we talked about Phil Spencer taking a leak. So a lot of leaks came out from Microsoft, and I feel like, you know, if you haven't heard this, you're probably living under a rock. So most of you guys have heard about this one way or another. And I just wanted to go through a couple bullet point listings of this to just talk with Brian, get his thoughts on it, kind of offer my thoughts on it. But there's a lot that I'm going to be excluding, guys. So if you hear this stuff and you're interested to see what else is out there, go out, Google it, because it is out there. And to preface too, guys, for those that only really listen to us for news, the leaks stem from 2020. So much has likely been changed, altered, canceled. You know, we don't know. I mean, it's hard to know how to take this stuff. But Brian, I'm going to go through these, kind of read all these. But as I read each one, I want you to give me, just to make this fun and spice it up a bit, give me a one-word answer of how it makes you feel. And then, then we'll talk about everything. We'll talk about it all in one go. Okay, first
Maybe any word.
Yeah, any word, just one word.
Here we go.
First one, Microsoft considered buying Nintendo. Phil Spencer, I think, and I got a lot of my news, guys, by the way, from Kotaku and elsewhere. So Phil was, I think, quoted as saying, "It's just taking a long time for Nintendo to realize that their future exists off their own hardware." One word answer. How does it make you feel?
No!
Is that like a Vader style no?
It's a Michael Scott no.
Oh, that is a Michael Scott no. Yeah, I should have recognized that.
I wanted to say Michael Scott no, but I'm going with one word, so I just said no.
Okay. Next up, we got a lot on the Bethesda roadmap. Things including sequels like to Ghostwire Tokyo, a Dishonored 3, remasters of Fallout 3, and Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. One word answer, Brian.
Excited.
Okay. Microsoft severely underestimated the success of Baldur's Gate 3. They estimated a $5 million expense to get the game on Game Pass. When Polygon posted an article talking about this, the director of publishing at Larian tweeted out and said, "In their defense, so did everyone else, same with DOS 2. Comes with the genre, and the way we approach things, and the way we execute things. There just isn't any existing data that could have told anyone how BG3 was going to perform. We just had to take giant spooky leaps." How does that make you feel?
Boss.
Okay. Xbox may go all digital in 2024. New mid-gen console that was shown with a code name Brooklyn. The leaked data indicates that the possible hardware refresh will include, quote, more internal storage, faster Wi-Fi, reduced power, and a more immersive controller. How does it make you feel?
Inevitable.
I like that one. Okay, and last... Oh, I got two more, actually. New Xbox controller. The image of a controller codenamed Sibyl shows a two-tone color design and promises modular thumbsticks and features that many of PlayStation fans have known for a few years now. Things like lift awake, precision haptic feedback, and such. What do you think about that?
Predictable.
Okay, and lastly, Microsoft is eyeing 2028 for a next-gen console.
Worried.
Okay, so again, guys, that's just some bullet point stuff we're going to dig into a little bit here, but again, there's a ton more stuff that I left out. That's just the stuff I think that would pertain more to Brian and I's interests. So is there anything in particular in there you want to really talk about, get on your soapbox with, buddy?
Well, I very OCD with a lot of things, and I used to be, Josh and has talked about a lot of times in this podcast, I used to collect physical video games and loved, having them and owning them and all that stuff. And me and Josh have moved away from that, where we're digital for games and movies, really. Mm-hmm. And we don't really care about collecting things physical. But I do still care about having ownership that's not tied to, online connectivity or a subscription service. And when Microsoft's leaked plans for a 2028 brand new next-gen Xbox console is a console that runs more or less half off of the console and half off of cloud technology, that would innately mean that every game you play on the Xbox, the next Xbox, would be tied to internet. Maybe you wouldn't have a subscription. Maybe it's not multiplayer, but it would be tied to the internet because cloud technology would be powering the games as much as the console, which means your Elder Scrolls 6, whatever particular Halo campaign you could be playing Elder Scrolls 6 or your Halo campaign and just having a good time single player and get kicked offline because the servers went down, because the game relies on cloud technology to work. So it has me pretty concerned for the future of gaming in that way. If we went to a gaming future where games innately run off cloud, that's not even... Then you get to an issue where could PC gamers even use emulation to preserve games? I think the answer would be no, because if the game fundamentally runs, the engine, the stability of the game itself runs on cloud technology, you couldn't emulate and back up the game to preserve it, even on a PC, because it runs off of a service that's provided online by someone else. So I feel like it would be the death of any kind of ownership and the death of any kind of preservation for games.
Right.
And I don't like it. Like, I understand if you make a multiplayer game that runs on cloud because you have to be online anyways to play the game multiplayer. So that kind of bums me out. But I also know, as a 31-year-old who gets more mature every day, hopefully, that things change. And if you want to be a part of them, you roll with the punches or you quit. And I'm probably at the point where, at least now, I want to play new games, so I'll probably just roll with the punches. But maybe when I get older, I'll say it's too much bullshit for me. Maybe I'll be 50 and say it's too much bullshit for me. I'll kind of dip out. Maybe I'll play some of my older stuff and I'll just kind of not worry about being caught up in the industry anymore. But I think the people that go on, and this used to be me, so I'm calling these people out, but it used to be me, who go on forums and they cause big hissy fits about how I won't stand for this, I won't buy the next console. It has to be, I need to have my own copy, and I need to own the license, and I need to. This is not right. We got to stand for something. Your voice is lost, man. Like, the only way you can speak is with your dollar. So there's no point in going online and bitching and complaining, making YouTube videos, whatever. You either buy it or you don't buy it. And the fact of the matter is, the vast majority of people who play games, they just want to be able to play it, have good accessibility, and not overpay. So if in 2028, the new Xbox console, maybe you don't even need the console, you can just play it on your TV through an app, and you can play it for $15 a month or whatever. If it's easy for people and it's not costing them an arm and a leg, they're going to be happy. So those super hardcore people like you and me who are like, I got to have my copy in a steelbook, $70, and blah 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 blah. Microsoft's going to just they're going to know that you're going to sack up and change, or you'll drop off and they won't care because you're the minority anyways. So.
Right. That's why killer apps are a thing, because they get you with the FOMO factor. Oh, I don't want to miss out on playing this game. I got to get this console. And then you buy into the whole ecosystem. And then, what person buys a console and then just walks away from it? Like, if you're someone who genuinely is interested in the industry and you buy a console and you buy a game, at that point you're just in, because you're like, well, I spent all this money. But, you talking makes me think back to our friend Xavier, and I asking him long ago. So he may feel differently now. But I said, Xavier, if video games were to go all digital and you can't get them physically anymore, how does it make you feel? He's like, I'll quit playing games. Like, I'll just play everything preceding kind of what's coming out now in that new era.
And that's either true and he'll be done playing games, or it's a bluff.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold him to it. It's just food for thought, because I know there are people out there that will feel that way or have felt that way after talking about these leaks, seeing the stuff. But, it's
the slow death. It's the slow death of things, man. That's why Xbox screwed up so big in 2013.
I don't know if I see it
they tried to do this overnight. What's that?
I said I don't know if I see it that way.
Okay.
Well,
maybe not slow death, slow change. Would that make sense with me?
For sure.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Because I think I would still prefer the era of midnight launches with physical copies, patches really being more just general bug fixes, as opposed to MB. We have to fix the game, itself, it's not done. And I miss manuals and stuff like that. And Brian was just telling me the other day, we were, I share my Voodoo account with him, and I have like almost 2,000 movies on there. And Brian was just saying how, like Barbie and I think something else came out recently and you were thinking like, oh yeah, like normally I'd be thinking like, oh, I want to go pick those up. But now you're like, no, that's not really a thing anymore. It's hard enough just to even sell what you still have there because no one really cares about the physical movies.
Like me and Josh would go and pick up that movie, brand new, $25 at
Best
the store
Buy.
day one.
Yeah.
Like for like our collection or something. But when you watch stuff digitally, you're like, well, if I desperately want to watch it now, which usually, to be honest, if I love the movie, I probably saw it a time or two in the theater and I can wait. But if I desperately want to see it, I'll buy it. But more than likely, since I'm buying it digitally anyways, I'll just go, well, I don't need to buy it right now, and then maybe it'll go on sale and I'll pick it up for $10, $15.
Well, and I look back at the history of just how things have went. Like with CDs back in the day, it was like, oh, everyone's getting LimeWire and all this other stuff, and they're downloading this stuff, and then suddenly they're like, oh, hey, it's illegal to do that, and then people are like, okay, well, what do we do? And some people still did that anyway, but then there was like iTunes and other stuff that has come out since where you can like
the 99-cent song on iTunes, and now it's Spotify.
Yeah, and then like so CDs started dying out, and then now as we've kind of and vinyls have come back, which is cool, but then at the same time on video games, it's like, well, physical is still a thing, but then in the last generation, it's more the illusion of being a physical collector because like you're still having what you're having to install is still the same amount of data someone has to install. Still the same size that someone has to install if they get it digitally. So like you have the only illusion, or the illusion is that you actually own the game in that sense of physicalness because you're putting the disc in and it's still the same amount. Like if Brian puts in a copy of Gears of War Ultimate Edition and let's say it's 40 gigabytes, he puts in the disc, like he's at a disadvantage versus me, who even though it's the same amount of size, I don't have to think about putting the disc in, getting off my ass to do it. And I don't lose the license.
By now, there's another 20 gigs of patches for that game, which makes my game disc null and void.
What was it? I've said this before, I think, in the past, but the Game of Thrones Telltale game, I think, only had on disc the first episode out of 5. Yeah. And the download code was in there inserted for the rest of the episomes. I'm
pretty sure you can't play Starfield off the disc.
Yeah.
Like, it literally doesn't function.
I mean, it's just, to me, it's like, I can be... I'm about to turn 35, and I'm just at a point in my life where so much is changing so fast, and I can be the person who shakes my fist and rejects it and says they don't make it like they used to. They don't do things like they used to. And I do feel that way some days with certain things. But I would much rather be the person that breaks that cycle and says, I'm happy for the accessibility, or I'm happy for how easier people are going to have something with this in life. Rather than be the person who's just bitter and resentful that I didn't have that, or that people aren't enjoying things the way I did when I was younger, or something to that effect. So like the fact that this is transitioning, like the older I get, the less I'm going to need to like collect or like own, or, that stuff isn't going to be as important to me.
Well, what really matters is the experience you have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if that's where it's going, like that doesn't sound exciting, but at the same time, like, look, as long as I still get some really amazing, memorable adventures, and I don't, and it's single player, not just multiplayer, then I'm going to be happy and excited to see where things go. But, the thing that got me the most excited out of everything, that really took me to Cream City. That's my new phrase. I'm trying it out.
I've noticed that.
Cream City. Really. Cream City, baby. Let's go. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion remaster.
Yeah.
Does that take you to Cream City, Brian?
It does if it's done right.
Okay.
And there's two ways they can do it right. One, the easy way is, 4K, 60 frames, smoothed out, quicker loading times, a nice little polished sheen over it. That would be good enough for me.
Right.
That's one way. That's the quote unquote easy way.
Okay.
Then the hard way would be to, what I've heard rumored is have a Halo 2 anniversary styled graphics, Unreal Graphics engine running over top of it that completely redoes the graphics and art to be contemporary, running over top of the original engine so that it feels and plays exactly the same way. If they could do it correctly, I would like the second way, the harder way, because that would be amazing, to have. And then to be able to switch back and forth, that'd be awesome too.
100%.
But honestly, even if it was just the 4K, 60 frames type thing, to give me a reason to start a new playthrough on Oblivion. I think the Oblivion and the Fallout 3 remaster type stuff is really exciting to me. I do feel like the Bethesda leaks, it was kind of underwhelming what their plans were, because as much as I will be there day one for Oblivion.
Yeah, there was Doom Year Zero or something in there too, right?
I'm like, okay, a Doom, what sounds like prequel.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's not exciting. Dishonored 3, on one hand, it's a little exciting because I feel like Arcane's in a bad spot after Redfall, and Dishonored's a good series. But on the other hand, I'm like, okay, another Dishonored and another Doom and remasters of 2 popular games we've all played a million times. I think there was a couple other things there. Expansions for Elder Scrolls Online. It's a really underwhelming list if you kind of get, the excitement of like playing a remaster of some of your favorite games out of your head. But yeah, no, I'm with you, dude. Like, that'd be amazing.
Couple people I remember out there were like, "Well, did you guys see that? They have no plans for Halo and no plans for Gears." It was just the Bethesda stuff that leaked. Yeah, it wasn't the Xbox.
And honestly,
I
don't think they have any plans for Halo anyways.
We'll see.
I think they do for Gears.
We'll see. But
you know what I was thinking about the other day, Josh? Like, I want to mention this real quick. I was thinking about this yesterday. Is like, and actually, what made me think of it was listening to, I think it was Defining Duke, where they're talking about Forza Motorsport. And I don't know if you actually knew this, Josh. Did you know that Forza Motorsport, it's just called Forza Motorsport. It's meant to be a platform for Forza going forward. It's not meant to be like... I
heard about that, but I didn't know a whole lot about that.
That's the same thing they said for Halo Infinite. And I think and this is where a lot of things are starting to come together in my head here. When I think it was Chris Lee made that whole like Halo Infinite, it's going to be the Halo game for the next 10 years. And then there was people saying, oh, well, that got taken out of context. It's not actually 10 years.
Right.
I think what he meant is Halo Infinite was being designed as a Halo platform for Game Pass going forward.
Yeah.
Just like Forza Motorsport is. And I think when he said 10 years, I think he said something that was more or less true. I think he was just saying like, oh, we're not talking about, the Halo that's going to be, for the next 3 years. We're talking about the Halo that's going to be for the next 10 years. He was giving an example of this is a platform. Of game. Yeah, this is the platform. So I think that's still true. I'm not saying we couldn't receive anything Halo related in the next 10 years, but I think that's very true, and that's what Microsoft's plan was. It also reinforces why the game's called Infinite instead of like 6. This is the Halo to go forward as a platform on their service Game Pass. You're going to have your Halo platform that's Halo Infinite, and you're going to have your Forza Motorsport that's a platform. In a sense, it's not really the same, but Starfield's going to kind of be a platform because it's going to be there for longer than 10 years with mods and updates without a sequel. So it's a new strategy that Microsoft's going for, and I think that it's probably a good strategy, even if I know a lot of us would prefer to get sequels and stuff more. But over to you, Josh.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think here's what they're doing. I think their mentality is literally like, we built this Halo game with the intention for it to become a service type game that can last a long time. We don't need to really funnel funds into 343 with Halo stuff in terms of like a new game, the next step right now.
Absolutely.
And also, we've done so much of that, and Halo has had to sort of like, Xbox has had to lean on the back of Halo for so long that now we're sort of like, okay, Starfield has come out, Redfall, even though it didn't really land the way I think anyone wanted it to. That came out. The Forza, like you're saying, it's kind of this new era for Forza, like you just said. So I think at this point, Microsoft's saying to themselves, like, we don't need that anymore. So it's there, it's existing. We're going to just let it do its thing while we're going to focus ahead on all these other new original IPs to build out that stuff. When time comes for Halo to come back again, it's going to do it. Same with Gears. Like, we know they're working on Gears 6. We don't know how long it's going to take for that to come out, but I don't think the days of having to rest on a burgers, fries, and shake is just... You'd like to think it's gone now. It seems like that. So I would like. It's
also a subscription industry we're moving towards, a service industry 100%. More than a buying the $60 retail.
Yeah, 100%.
Gears of War, the next one, it's going to be a platform. That's my guess.
And there was, I think I left it out, but I just wasn't as interested in talking about it. But just how much like they're pretty much saying like Game Pass is pretty much potentially the make or break for them in terms of Microsoft or Xbox even having a future long term. And I just, I don't necessarily love Game Pass. Like, I don't use it all the time, but I like that it's there. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of pros and cons to it. But for them, I think they just want to focus on the future, get out stuff that's get out from under the stink cloud that has been what you've had to rely on the last 10 years. And this is what people have been waiting for. This is what you've been working toward to get to. So when you don't see Microsoft stuff leaking out there, and we're sitting here speculating that we don't think we're going to see Halo stuff for a long time, Gears 6 isn't going to be out for a while. It's like, I'm fine with that, and I know people get upset and get mad about that, but guys, I mean, we just had that for so long. Aren't you ready for something else and letting this stuff? I mean, everyone talks about Halo Infinite getting better as it's gone on, and it's like, that's awesome. We should celebrate that. Let's keep seeing it get better. Let's keep seeing it grow. Let's see what changes they can add to it. And then when 343 is ready to talk about whatever they're doing next, let's get excited. But in the meantime, we have an opportunity to finally look the other way and feel excited, as opposed to looking the other way and just seeing like nothing. Yeah. And if I can just say real quick, and I'm sure you want to say a couple things on that, but before I forget, when it comes to going to Cream City for Elder Scrolls Oblivion, there's a part of me that thinks like, okay, maybe they're going to just do, like you said, like just a kind of an up-res, 4K 60 frames. But there's the other part of me that said, like, I want to just set my expectations at that being all we get. But there's the other part of me that says, if they're doing a remaster, why would that be like all we can expect? Because at this point, why even do it? Because you can play Oblivion backwards compatibility with like auto HDR and shit now, and it like loads faster and everything and plays faster. So I'm like, there's a part of me that like wants to like move the goalpost a little bit on my expectations with that, but the other part of me is like, oh, I don't know.
I think it's going to get that Halo 2 treatment.
I would love that.
It's tough to say because that's the problem with the wording, right? Like, because if you say remaster, you think upscale frame increase,
right?
But if you say remake, you think Final Fantasy VII remake, or you think of like Demon Souls
ground
remake.
up, just ground up. Yeah,
but if Halo, ground up. But Halo 2 Anniversary was neither, right? It wasn't ground up. It was ground up for the graphics and sound, but not the rest of the game. So it's like that in-between cool remaster. I think we're going to get, I agree with you, I think we're going to get the in-between Halo 2 Anniversary.
I would love that. Yeah. The only, like, if I could have my dream scenario for that, having a remaster, I would just like your enemies not to level up with you, similar to how they treated it in Skyrim. And I think that's possible, but I won't expect that.
I wonder if they could do that without breaking the game. Like, could they make that a thing? Or,
if it is just a remaster, you would think, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay. I will still be super excited for that. What about the Nintendo thing, though, Brian? What do you think about that?
I mean, it probably doesn't have a lot of weight behind it, but I mean, we know that Microsoft tried to acquire Nintendo when they were creating the original Xbox. They got laughed out of the room, and I kind of hate what Phil's saying right here. Like, now I know that he's a corporate guy, and like it's fine that he's saying it, but it kind of made him feel like a villain because it's like he's like, Nintendo needs to realize that their future is off their own platform. It feels kind of hubris. Like, here's what I get. Nintendo makes some of the best games ever made. Their hardware is always lacking compared to their competitors.
Yeah.
So I get what he's saying in the sense that if you took Nintendo's amazing talent in games, you could just put them on an Xbox or a PlayStation, and they'd be better systems than the ones they're on, like graphically and the potential for what they could do with them. But it's kind of bullshit what he's saying when they're selling. The Switch is poised to be one of the best-selling consoles of all time, and we know a Switch 2 will also sell bangers. Even if Nintendo doesn't make decisions that a lot of us like, even if their console is not as powerful, they absolutely can. Who the hell is Phil to say that they shouldn't be on their own platform when the Xbox One and the Series X and S are selling like dog shit by comparison?
Right.
Dog shit by comparison. It's so asinine for him to. It's just silly. Like
I love Phil, and to be fair, fool of a took. To be fair, like this was stuff like from 3 years ago. So at that point, the Switch had only had a 3-year lifespan and stuff. So I'm not saying he's right.
Compared to the Xbox One that he was currently coming off of.
No,
the Xbox,
very true.
If you take the Xbox One, Series S and X sales and combine them, they're not even remotely close to Switch, which is like a freaking Tegra cell phone chip graphics battery in it. Right. Like, it's just like, no, it's insane.
I'm with you. If I can touch on a couple things, because we got to get out of here soon, guys. Yeah. Before we close out,
we'll skip the patron shoutouts this time, and we already got business in the top. So let's if we can try to get out of here in the next 7 minutes or so.
Little conversation at the back.
Yeah.
The new controller design, it looks like a PlayStation controller, I love PlayStation inspired controller, I should say. That looks fantastic. I love the PlayStation 5 controller, one of my favorite controllers of all time. I think, to be fair, you were the first one out of the two of us to ever say that, but I really agree with that.
It was hard, Josh, is I've wanted to say, like, it's been on my mind. I've wanted to say, like, the PS5 controller is better than the Series X controller, or Series S controller, X controller, yeah. But then I stop myself and I go, no, I actually prefer the Xbox ergonomics. Like, I like the Xbox controller more.
Yeah.
But what Sony's done with the PS5 to make it feel premium and have extra features is something I felt Xbox was really lacking and I was missing out on. But now they're doing it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The last thing for me is just the Baldur's Gate 3 stuff. I just think that's fascinating. I mean, it just, I think as of yesterday, released on Mac.
Yeah.
So it's still having a staggered release of PC release, PS5, Mac, and then hopefully, again, at the end of this year, Xbox.
And then Switch 2 in a year or two.
Yeah, yeah. It's just
That'll be so
fascinating
hard
to
to
me,
play.
just in terms of underestimating that. Like, what a huge missed opportunity it was for Xbox to not have that day and date with PS5's release. And I think it does, it mostly, I feel like, and maybe this is my own hubris talking, I feel like this does kind of confirm my own assumptions before back to, what was it, Summer Games Fest or whatever the thing was where Phil came out. No, it wasn't Summer Games Fest. But Phil came out and was like, hey, yeah, we just talked to them. It's coming to Xbox by the end of the year, but we're doing some stuff with parity, but I feel like that, I was thinking at the time when that conversation came out that like, okay, he was seeing the success of it on PC and said like, we can't have this being a conversation between Starfield and like putting Starfield in competition or putting it in competition with Starfield and stuff. And even though I don't really think people have necessarily done that, I'm sure that's out there. I'm just not seeing that, which is good, but it's still a huge...
I think they were before he confirmed it was coming to Xbox.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he looked at that and was like, how can we negate that conversation coming up? Because can you guys imagine a time like where we still didn't have an ETA on when this was coming to Xbox, if it even does at all? And then it's just like in this nebulous void of it'll come to Xbox eventually, but look at PS5 owners having a good time, Mac owners, 3 people that own a Mac, and everyone else on PC that's having a great time. And you're hearing about this game that is like one of the best games already made of all time, one of the highest rated games reviewed on Metacritic, and it's going to win Game of the Year, and everyone's assuming. And whether or not it does or doesn't matter. It's the fact that people are putting it on that pedestal already and praising it so much, and then you're looking at Xbox and you're saying we don't have that. Holy shit. What a miss. So
yeah, it feels like we got to get that 11 out of 10 game that I thought Starfield was over on our platform.
Yeah. And the fact
that's what it really turned out to be. Like,
yes,
Baldur's Gate 3 was that game this year, and you don't want a direct competition with Starfield.
No, and there was, I can't remember where I read it, but there was the implication, I think, that that Xbox did approach Larian at one point or another to maybe buy them, but they were like, and they were polite, but they were just like, we wouldn't be able to make the kind of game we want to make. And it's just fascinating.
They wouldn't have paid
to me.
that
Very
much
fascinating.
for them either.
But overall, my closing thoughts, then I'll pass over to you so you can kind of get us out of here. But on the leaks, I think pretty revealing stuff. I feel really bad for them.
We didn't talk about the refresh of the console. There's a Series X refresh, which is going to be about the same size as the Series X now, except instead of a square, it'll be a cylinder. It'll have no disk drive. It'll have
really
2 terabytes instead of 1. Yeah, it'll be a cylinder with 2 terabytes instead of 1, no disk drive, and it'll be better Wi-Fi and more power efficient for the same $499.99 price.
Miss me with that shit. I like
the one I got.
I will be there in 2028, and I know some people will be like, that's way too soon. But it's like, bro, by the time that comes out, we'll have had 8 years. That's 5 more years to go. If that is true, to me, that's long enough because it's usually close to 10 years between generations lately, like the last several decades, I think. But yeah, closing thoughts for me. I feel bad for them because at the same time, it's like you kind of fall on your face. You're wearing clown shoes, like not intentionally, but everyone's kind of seeing like some of the things you've talked about, some of the things you have had planned, whether or not that's still happening. And I mean, Phil did come out and say, obviously it sucks, but at the same time, a lot's changed since then, and we're still excited for all that. It's just still a bummer, but as someone who likes the industry, just like Brian does, it's really fascinating, pretty cool, and they got some neat stuff in there. But it does make you wonder, and some stuff's exciting, some stuff makes you gives you an air of caution, but pretty interesting. This was huge for Xbox, not necessarily in a good or bad way, just in terms of like really having their pants fall down in public.
I would say it was mostly bad because.
Yeah. I'll give you. Yeah, you're right.
Hardware and next generation plans doesn't really benefit the consumer or the manufacturer. And
I don't know.
The game release announcements do benefit us because we love to get excited for these things.
Sure.
But I don't think the games that were leaked were so significant enough that the pros of us being excited for them outweigh the leak of them, because we're mostly talking about remasters and another Doom and another Dishonored, whereas that would have been better as a surprise reveal.
Yeah, you're not hearing like necessarily a lot of new IP stuff, like code
Like,
name,
if,
blah blah blah.
if it was leaked like that Bethesda had secured the rights for the KOTOR remake and they were doing it, that would have been like, oh shit, bombshell, everyone's talking about it. But
Sure.
the games were mostly like, oh, I'm not shocked,
Well, and plus that was around the time that Microsoft had acquired Bethesda, was it not? 2020.
Yeah.
And it surprisingly there wasn't any mention in there that I know of that had talk of them wanting to acquire Activision Blizzard. So
No, that came out of left field.
yeah, so I mean, biggest takeaway for me was the Oblivion remaster. A nice sort of mid Elder Scrolls refresh before we go into Elder Scrolls 6. I'm all for it, baby.
But last thing I'll say is I'm so happy for Larian that they have this smash success where they can come out and say like, yeah, to be fair, no one believed in us.
Yeah, they've been really nice. They really are the new CD Projekt Red. They literally just add they're doing the same shit they did with Witcher 3 with their patches. Like they literally just put one out yesterday that wasn't just bug fixes. You can you get a mirror now in your camp where you can go and like tweak some of your characters' looks.
I love to see it.
And
you gotta wonder if anyone at Bethesda's kicking the wall going, damn it, because it literally 2015 Witcher 3 completely overshadowed Fallout 4 by the time the year was over. Like everyone was waiting for Fallout 4, not Witcher 3. But then Witcher 3 was, by the end of the year, everyone was like, Witcher 3, that was the RPG for me this year. And then the same thing is going to happen this year. People are going to be like, Baldur's 3, that was it. It wasn't Starfield. And it's like, and that kind of ties it all back into the beginning of this conversation where I'm saying Bethesda was top dog. They were innovating. They were doing new things. And the industry's just passed them by. And they've continued to make very good, exceptional games, but are just more of the same with diminishing returns. And that's where I am concerned for Bethesda.
I think that's good, though. That's a good thing, right? Because then you have the competition. Then you're looking at the young blood that's coming out and you're saying, oh, shit, I can still play. I can still hang with you. So what do I got to do to get back on that level?
And to be fair, to not just single out Bethesda, you got to even CD Projekt Red needs to look at Larian.
100%. 100%. That's why I'm so happy to see when all these days when so many places are getting bought up, you love to see someone like Larian Studios who's just still independent for now, doing their own shit, killing it. And even if that game doesn't win Game of the Year, it's going to win it somewhere, just like Starfield will. And the fact that it's in that conversation, I mean, it's just cool. And it's gonna be interesting to see the conversation because I feel like at the end of the year, if that does win it, you're going to see a lot of Starfield fans that cannot accept that. You're going to see a lot of, if Starfield wins, you're going to see a lot of people that are like, Baldur's Gate 3 was the clear obvious choice, or Tears of the Kingdom, or this or that. It's going to be interesting because I feel like this year,
I think Tears of the Kingdom would piss me off the most, and it's actually
yeah.
It's actually the only game I would give a 10 out of 10 this year. Like I think it really deserves it, but like it's two things, right? It's such a Zelda move to get Game of the Year because like Zelda's just like, it's like when someone's like, if you had to explain to a kid who's just born into this world what a Game of the Year is, you'd be like, it's this, and you point at Zelda. Like that'd just be the definition.
Yeah.
Like it's so stereotypical. And then the fact that like, despite me thinking it's 10 out of 10, that game was phenomenal. It's so much. It's literally Breath of the Wild done over again. It's like we just played this. It's just done over.
It's interesting. It's so fascinating to me because everything I hear about Tears of the Kingdom is more of the same. Doesn't make it bad. People are saying 10 out of 10. You're saying that, but it's not innovating. And again,
I didn't say that.
Okay,
it is innovating.
Okay.
The building mechanics.
Oh, you know what? I stand corrected. You're totally right. I was wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does a lot of new things different, but it also feels a lot similar to Breath of the Wild in certain ways.
I think the thing go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that you have a lot of similarities despite some innovations, right? Okay,
Yeah.
If I can give myself a remaster on that opinion. And then you look over at Starfield, which is huge for Xbox. People are loving it who are playing it on Xbox. But then it's not necessarily, it's kind of showing a bit of the staleness of Bethesda's MO. Mm. But then you look at Baldur's Gate 3, who is this like fish out of water game that no one expected to do as well as it is. You have like three different like narratives kind of going on with this like triangle of like games here that are in contention right now. And I know there's other ones out there that are going to be in contention for Game of the Year, but just talking about like what's been the big ones for us, especially like very different conversations, different receptions, different games. And it's going to be fascinating at the end of the year because we're in such a good year of gaming, one of the best ever, that there's going to be huge points of contention. There's not like last year. I feel like it was, even if I wouldn't have necessarily personally said Raggy Rock Game of the Year, I would have said like I would say right now, like that absolutely deserved it, but there wasn't a whole lot of competition compared to like this year where it is insane.
I'm going to give you, this is a terrible way to end the podcast. I'm going to give you this is the most damning thing about Starfield. When you take the big 3 game of the year talks of this year, I think you'd agree, Josh, are Zelda, Baldur's Gate, and Starfield, right?
Yes.
Those are the 3 big pillars right now. We haven't had Spider-Man 2 or Alan Wake or whatever come out yet. But this is the most damning thing about Starfield. You know, whenever you're looking forward to a game, you have all these aspirations and ideas in your head of what it could be, what you could do. Like, you picture yourself. Like, when Halo 3 was coming out, you're like, am I going to fight the Gravemind, like, in space? What's going to happen? Are we going to stop the flood? Like, you just picture all these ideas, right? And then you play the game, and usually what happens is it humbles you, and you realize the game's going to be a little different than what your wildest expectations had pictured.
Okay.
Well, when you're thinking about Baldur's Gate 3 and how choice matters and how you're going to have these companions and these romance options, and could I actually do this? Would it let me do would it let me do in D&D where I could like go over here and dump this pot and set it on fire and get around? You have these big ideas. You wonder, will it let me do that? You get Baldur's Gate 3 and you realize, yes, it will let me do all those things. The things I was hoping this game would be, it is those things. Then you go over to Zelda and you go, well, man, they show me like traveling up to the like cities in the sky and like diving off the cities in the sky and seamlessly landing on the ground, and then like going seamlessly jumping down an underground cavern and landing on that. They have me like building like helicopters and ships and vehicles and giant robot mechs that can fight for me. So you have this idea of what you can do in Tears of the Kingdom. And then you get Tears of the Kingdom on your little old Switch, and it does let you seamlessly dive from the sky to the land, to the underground. It lets you build everything you could imagine. It lets you set up turrets and build giant mech robots. Like, when you played Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and when you played Baldur's Gate 3, everything you imagined you could do in those games, your wildest dreams, they fulfilled them. You could do them. And it was just like, wow, this is special. Starfield didn't do that. All the wildest dreams and expectations I had for what Starfield could do and could be, it ended up being a little less than that. Luckily, it was a phenomenal game anyways, but, and I'm not saying that these are like objective point detractors, but like, your ship can't take off from a planet and go into space. It's a loading screen. Your ship can't even travel through space. It's a glorified loading screen itself. You just kind of sit in orbit. You can't travel.
You're saying the player agency in these other 2 games is a lot more prevalent than it is in something like Starfield.
I mean, all the hype and promotion and what it could be completely lived up to it in Baldur's Gate and Zelda. Mm-hmm. But Starfield is just one thing after another you didn't really think it was going to be. It's loading screens, and then the procedural generated planets. You thought, well, maybe Bethesda's going to have a way to like. I was thinking maybe Bethesda was going to have a way to like take like their design cities in Quest and like put those through an AI and generate it out to the other planets. But you end up discovering the planets in Starfield are mostly just bland, generated, samey, planet surfaces. Cool. So it's like all these expectations and things you had for these 3 games, Baldur's Gate 3 meets them. Zelda meets them. Sometimes they excel them. Starfield, it doesn't. It kind of drops the ball.
To those out there that are saying, like, again, to circle back, Brian, I don't need it to. What do you say to that?
Yeah. I say that's a very mature, fair way to look at it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, what you got here was this. You got to, in a year with so many good games and questioning who's going to be the game of the year, if you're talking about Zelda, Starfield, and Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield's just another Bethesda game, and that's great.
Do you reckon by the end of the year, like if we can just try to generalize, by the end of the year, do you think Starfield will be considered like by people wide in the industry? Mm-hmm. Will it be a top 3 contender for game of the year? Will it slip down to maybe top 5, top 10?
If you twisted my arm and said you have to decide right now, I would say it will still be top 3 contender.
Top 3, okay.
But I think there's a very, very real possibility that once the gaming culture that has a short-term memory has gotten to experience Phantom Liberty, Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man, Mario Wonder, Miss of Pandora, or whatever it's called.
Avatar Frontiers of Pandora.
Mario RPG, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. The gamers that have just been through an onslaught of a dozen plus banger games, Starfield might drop out. And to be fair, maybe Zelda would too, but I don't really think so. Like, I'm not trying to have a hate campaign against Starfield because I love that game.
No, but you're right. Short-term memory.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a
short-term memory, but yeah.
It's harder. Like, I didn't think when Elden Ring was coming out, was it last year Elden Ring came out? We had a couple good bangers in the beginning of the year, then it was like a huge dry fart in the middle.
And Ragnarok was there at the end.
And it's just hard to think, even though obviously that was in contention. And you know what? Even now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, I could see Elden Ring being Game of the Year. But whereas I said before, I'd give it to maybe Ragnarok. But like, it is harder to remember that, like, oh yeah, that game came out this year.
Elden Ring did win though last year.
It did. Okay. Yeah, I can see it deserving that. Even though it's not my game,
even though it was like
it
was old, you know. But I think Zelda and Baldur's Gate are a lock for what they've managed. I think Starfield has a potential to fall out. Right now, I'm feeling like, because if I'm trying to, I don't know if there's any games coming out the rest of this year that are going to feel innovative or bangers in the way that Baldur's Gate or Zelda.
I know we got to get out of here, but I got to ask you another question.
I really do need to.
Okay. If it's at the Game Awards, Reptilian Jeff Keighley comes out with Dead Eyes.
Yeah.
He gets announced, you know, or he's going to announce the Game of the Year. Someone comes up on stage, says some other shit, and he's weird again.
Oh, yeah.
But then he opens the envelope, and he's like, the Game of the Year goes to Starfield. For you personally, Brian, does that kind of make you mad, or at least upset or unsettled? And the reason I ask that before you answer is because going off everything you're saying, it's worthy of people's Game of the Year, but not necessarily the Game of the Year based off what you played. So if we're in a scenario on a timeline where that wins sort of overall, like if people are looking at the Game Awards as the de facto opinion on the Game of the Year, and that wins it, does that really upset you? Like, that didn't deserve it, or where do you feel on that?
To be completely honest, I wouldn't be upset, but I would have this very passive of like, well, that wasn't the Game of the Year. Like, we know that, you know, like I wouldn't. Because like I said, like, I like Starfield more than Zelda, and I pretty much know I'm gonna like Starfield more than Baldur's Gate 3 because it's my type of game. I love Starfield, you know. So like for me, I'd be like, this is a game I love. This is, you know, it's cool that it won. But when he announced that, I'd be like, is it though? Like, you know, I'd be like,
fair. I'm not trying to put a target on your back. I was just genuinely curious.
Like, we know, like, it's just, we know it's not the Game of the Year, right? Okay. Like, it's just, I would find it so like. I'd be like, no, it's not.
Okay,
whatever.
Real quick before we get out, Brian, out of the games you played, out of the 2023 releases you played this year, can you rank me your favorite experiences to least?
Favorite experience? My personal favorite experiences? The ones I played? Mm-hmm. Number one is Final Fantasy 16.
Okay.
Also, I want to go ahead and say that Final Fantasy 16 is just more of the same, too. Yeah. You know, if I'm being fair. Right. Like Starfield, it's, you know.
It just hits your biased buttons. What you want.
Yeah, just personal opinion. Final Fantasy 16, and then Starfield's a very, very close number 2.
Okay.
Number 3 is Resident Evil 4 Remake. I freaking loved it.
Okay. Yeah,
so
great
awesome.
Things about just Resident Evil seems to have such a good record right now.
Oh, they're killing it, dude. And this new DLC that just dropped seems like they killed it all over again. I heard it was
great, yeah.
Yeah. And then number 4, I guess, would be Tears of the Kingdom. And then...
Is 5 Dead Space?
I guess 5's Dead Space, yeah. Because what else have I played that's...
I don't know. I thought that was it.
Because I haven't played Baldur's Gate.
You
I didn't play Diablo.
Yeah.
Jedi Survivor, I didn't play that.
Right.
That's another thing that's like, I feel, to shout out to like to Prey, and I guess also Wesley. Jedi Survivor is a game that, you know, deserved to be talked about a lot more in the Game of the Year, or not even Game of the Year award, maybe like, you know, best sound, best graphics, whatever.
For sure.
That's
they
a game
loved
that really,
it, yeah.
That's a game that deserves to be mentioned there too, but it is just so far out in the past, and so many good things have come out since, and so much more is coming, that's another game that's just getting forgotten.
And you didn't play it, but I mean, Hogwarts Legacy, you watched Erica play
Hogwarts Legacy?
Yeah, that's another one, yeah. Ugh.
They're just so far back in a year. 2023 is the best year in gaming. I told Josh I want to do a podcast just about that.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. I remember it was like late last year, the beginning of this year, I was saying like 2023 is going to be one of the best years of gaming ever that we've had in a long time. I remember saying that, but yeah, I mean,
I think it's objectively the best year. Obviously, when I say objective, I'm not saying like that's the facts and you have to accept them. I'm saying that like, even though my favorite game of all time is like Ocarina of Time from, you know, 1998, or Halo 3, and Halo 3 was in 2007, type stuff like that. Halo 2 was in 2004. I think if I'm being objective, like the amount of quality games in one freaking year with diversity of them, like outstanding.
I don't think you're wrong. I just, like, for me, knowing how I am, like, I just can't give it that yet. But
you gotta wait.
Yeah, but I actually I think that could. It's got plenty of potential. Jesus, like, it's insane.
Holy crap, yeah. Okay, guys, we're going to get out of here. You luckily got a longer podcast than I even told my wife that I would allow. So, but this was a really good one, guys. We had a lot to talk about. I would love to hear your thoughts on Starfield. I'm sure a lot of people disagree with me. Totally fair, totally fine with that.
Hey, Brian.
Your thoughts on the leaks, Baldur's Gate 3, what you've played this year that's the best, what do you think is going to get Game of the Year? What do you want to say, Josh?
Is there anything you want to announce?
Oh, yeah, I completely forgot.
I got you.
Josh has been remembered better than I have. But if you guys like listening to Sacred Icon and you think that you would like some more podcast content, me and Joe Smalley, he's been on Sacred Icon a couple times as a guest. So if you don't know who that is, you could find him in some of our older episodes. Joe Smalley has started a new podcast called Critical Frames. And it is a podcast that fixates on the latest gaming news the day of recording. And we have done 3 episodes. I'm the co-host with Joe on Critical Frames. We've done 3 episodes. You can find our episodes on YouTube at youtube.com/criticalframes. You can find them on Spotify or iTunes, any platform you want.
It's not on iTunes yet. I'm waiting for it.
It's still not on iTunes?
Yeah.
Holy crap. Well, go to Spotify if you can't find it there.
Yeah, Spotify's the most accessible anyway.
We just started, but it's on YouTube as well. But Critical Frames is the name of the podcast. Like I said, just gaming news. It's me and Joe Smalley. So if my voice is enough to carry you over there, if you want to listen to some more podcast content, it's going to be great.
It's pretty cool.
We're going to do a couple episodes a week at least. There'll be shorter form. But yeah, it's been fun.
It's like a giant side quest for you. You know, I like it. Well, I did that. I tried that with Cinema This and had to stop because of my back. But now you got to do your own venture. Very cool.
Josh had his Cinema This venture that he's kind of taken a hiatus on, and we're starting this up. We'll see how this goes. And I'm letting Joe kind of be it's kind of his podcast, letting him lead it, be the host. Mm-hmm. And I come in there and offer my opinions on it. I know we talked about the Xbox leaks. We talked about the PlayStation and the Nintendo Showcase things that we released recently.
Their last episode, they talked a lot about the Xbox leaks. So if you guys want to really hear that in detail, you go listen to episode 3 of their show.
Yeah. So go check that out, guys. We'd appreciate it. That's, like I said, that's Critical Frames. Just search Critical Frames anywhere if you want to find us. We also have a Patreon, but you got to listen first and see if it's worth it. So that's also at Critical Frames. But
very cool.
Yeah, guys, we loved having you here. Thank you for listening to another episode
I love you guys.
of the Sacred Icon podcast. And as always, keep it sacred.